Blueberry. This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites, a no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all of the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better media host or looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month free. And with that said, enjoy the show.
Hello, this is the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, and you can't tell, but right now I'm dressed as Deacon and not the Fallen Angel because I'm at Waterworld, and you are listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast because there's degrees. There's a little bit busted open, but this is Busted Wide Open. You're listening to us, so thanks for listening.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Busted Wide Open podcast, but if this is your first time joining the show, I'd like to welcome you to episode 155. My name is Nick Howell.
And rooting for Buddy Murphy only because he wore silver and black this week, just like my Raiders. I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And Nick, I am here while they are currently, the game just started. Packers versus Raiders just started for the preseason. And yet, such is my love for professional wrestling and for this podcast that I am here instead, ready to talk about this week in WWE, New Japan, NXT, the world, AEW. We got lots to talk about, Nick. Lots and lots and lots. But as we always do, let's get our housekeeping out of the way first, and then we can talk about all of that.
Yes, as always, guys, you want to be over in the Busted Wide Open discussion group on Facebook. It is where the hub of our operation for now. Teaser, hint, wink, wink. Yeah, lots of stuff, good stuff happening. But yeah, be in there for the time being. Be sure to check out our Discord server as well. You can find a link to that pinned to the top of the group to get your little secret entryway into there. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast, right here on YouTube, where we are currently live. If you are not watching us on YouTube, it's youtube.com/bustedwideopen. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because we put events up and we schedule these so you get constant reminders of when we're going to be going live. But that's Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here at youtube.com/bustedwideopen. And, you know, if you subscribe, you can even get in on our Gleam giveaway. We're doing our first monthly, not patron, but just listener Gleam giveaway for a whole big grab bag of merch. And all you have to do is verify using that Gleam link that you are following us and subscribe to us here on the YouTube channel and all of our social accounts. Very easy to do, costs you nothing, get some free sweet swag, and have a good time while doing it. Last but certainly not least, have to thank all of our patrons, lots of which are watching us live right here in the chat. What's up, patrons? How you doing, guys? Thank you so much to all of our patrons for your patronage. And if you want to get in on some of that, access to extra bonus episodes, show notes, all kinds of good stuff behind the scenes, head over to patreon.com/BWO. Sign up for one of those awesome reward tiers, and we have some ideas of how we're going to ramp that up even further going forward. So patreon.com/BWO. Ian, it felt like kind of a light week of wrestling, but it wasn't really that light. There was a lot that went down this week.
There was a lot that went down, but Nick, before we can talk about that, we do have to remind everybody that we are on a drive to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Well, I was going to let you off the hook on that one this week.
I have to talk about it because I want to get it done by the end of August because I want you to have to do your share as well. That's right.
No!
If we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by the end of August, both Nick and myself will humiliate ourselves for your enjoyment. If we get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of August, both Nick and myself will have to sing the entrance theme songs of our least favorite wrestler. That means I'm going to have to go up on karaoke night at my bar and sing Tai Chi's entrance song in Japanese and record it and put it up on YouTube for you all to laugh at. And if we get there by the end of August, Nick as well will have to get up there and sing Nia Jax's theme song in its entirety, while hopefully also doing some nice Nia Jax dance moves. However, there's a caveat. If we don't get there by the end of August, Nick is off the hook, and it's just me that's on the hook.
Yep.
And we have until SmackDown debuts on Fox on October 4th.
Yep.
I believe we have until then to get to 1,000 subscribers. We get to it by then I have to do Tai Chi's theme song, and Nick is off the hook. But that's why I'm saying let's get us there by the end of August, please, 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 so you can watch us both make absolute jackasses of ourselves in public. Plus, you get to hear our lovely, lovely singing voices. Yes.
Absolutely. So, and there's thousands of you guys listening out there, so we know that the numbers are there. So just come click subscribe on a YouTube channel and get this done, right?
Yeah.
I'm challenging you guys. We know that you're out there listening, but at the same time, it's just come click a channel and look at what you get for just clicking a button. So help us out so that we can entertain you.
Oh, I hope it's entertaining. I hope it's not just tragic. But yes, that's going to happen. So guys, please help us out. But in the meantime, Nick, it's time to get the show on the road and talk about the big news.
Well, I usually save this for the end, but beep, 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 beep. Holy shoot. We got some big news this week, for sure.
What else could it be? What else could it be this week?
Counter-programming what?
Yeah, if you pay any kind of attention to wrestling, you know what we're going to talk about right now. NXT to USA! It's happening. We've been reporting it as a rumor for the last couple of weeks. It is official. The Wednesday Night Wars are on. NXT is going up on USA opposite of AEW's 2-hour programming. It's going to be from 8 to 10 Eastern time here in the United States. Starting on September 18th. They're going up 2 weeks before AEW debuts because FU AEW,
right,
according to Vince McMahon.
Because FU we can.
Giving us a 2-week head start, pal. Yeah, so it's official now. NXT is going to 2 hours. It's going live, and it's going up on Wednesday nights on USA. If you are a subscriber on the network and you still want to watch your NXT, you are still kind of in luck. They're going to do a 24-hour grace period, kind of like what they do with Raw and SmackDown, and then it will go up on the network instead of Hulu. I suspect Hulu will have the same deal. But yeah, you can either watch it live or on the network. Nick, there's some things we got to break down about this because this is interesting. First of all, people have been kind of speculating, slavering, all the whole spectrum of what you could expect from people reacting to the rise of AEW, the existence of AEW, and whether or not this is actually a war between them and WWE, whether that's even a relevant way of talking about it, because WWE, it's a little tiny boat versus a battleship here at this point, really, when it comes to finances and everything else. I mean, not finances. They both have billionaire backers, but let's face it, WWE's got much more of a machine going right now. So it's interesting that WWE, of all of their shows that they would put up opposite AEW, they put up NXT, which I think, in my opinion, and tell me what you think here, Nick, that's the show that, of all of their stuff, is most likely to be direct counter-programming for AEW.
Yeah, it's a perfect setup, frankly, to have both of them like that. Having them right next to each other or on top of each other is probably a better way to say that, is a big deal, because now you really have to make a decision which cable channel you're going to tune into on Wednesday nights.
Absolutely.
With the network out there, you could have watched AEW and then gone right to the network and watched that week's episode of NXT, which was kind of my intention. But now I don't get that choice anymore.
No, they're forcing you to choose.
They're forcing you to choose, which is interesting. Why would you do that?
Isn't that strange? Yeah, why would you do that? It's pretty obvious. It's because
Vince McMahon's ego.
Make this, well, yeah, and actually Jim Ross even said, like, it proves that on some level WWE believes that AEW is some sort of competition. Now, I don't know how seriously they're taking them yet, but I think it's, on one level, it's a strong decision for NXT because now they're elevating it to the point of it being essentially another main roster brand. You're still going to have some of their developmental guys showing up there, men and women. But at the same time, they're already saying that they're going to be giving most of the major performers on NXT main roster contracts. Now, they're not going to have developmental contracts anymore. A lot of the major players are going to get main roster contracts. So there's going to be now a direct division between the true developmental people and the NXT, quote unquote, main roster. So it's for NXT, this is a huge deal, and it's a big deal for a lot of people that are down there. And I suspect some people that went back to NXT, like Tyler Breeze, Fandango, Killian Dane, and some of the people that stuck around there instead of getting called up, like Shayna Baszler, Velveteen Dream. That's a big deal for them because now they're able to stick with this brand. And frankly, it doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of people that really feel passionately about being in NXT. It does seem like it's more of a familial environment. They get to have a little bit more creative freedom, do more matches that give them more accolades. So I can see why they'd be more excited to stay with NXT. That, I think, if I were AEW, would make me a little nervous because it's basically this very similar kind of programming to what you're going to have with a lot more major professional backing and an existing history. So they're, and NXT is even starting 2 weeks before them. So they're going to have a little bit more of a lead up.
Momentum,
AEW, I think,
you could say.
A little bit. I'm trying to avoid it, but I can't. It's going to give them a little bit more momentum going into this fall. So yeah, what's interesting is they didn't really take a huge contract for NXT. They were so invested in getting NXT up there opposite AEW. Their contract right now is $30 million per year for 2 years. So it's 60 total, which you looked at compared to what they got from Fox. That's chump change. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing. So they just wanted to get that up on TV. So the other question is, now that they're going to be on TV live and all the rest of this, does Triple H retain sole creative control? Now, we know Vince has had some say over NXT, but only in the most general sense where he knows it exists and he'll come in and, maybe yay or nay some of the big stuff. But really, it's been Hunter's baby. Does Vince now take an interest in NXT? And I think a lot of people are scared about that.
I think there's several competing lines of thought here. I think there's a rumor going around right now. I saw it circulated in a couple of places today that Vince was going to begin to step back or step away from the chair, and Heyman was somehow going to progressively take over Raw, and Bischoff was going to take over SmackDown, and Hunter would continue to run NXT. And I'm going, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. But on the inverse, does Vince get involved with NXT? I don't think so either. I don't think either of those things are true. I think we announced all the XFL stuff this week, right?
Yes.
The new team, all the teams got announced. They're basically waiting for the cuts in the NFL to happen, and they can have their draft sometime in September, I believe. The president said in an interview earlier this week they were going to have their draft sometime in September for the XFL. So I think Vince is going to be pretty busy over the next few months because they're hoping to start, I think they said in February. So we'll see.
I mean, and to your point, Vince wasn't even at TV this week.
Right.
He was, so he's already not there. And that might be why he brought in these other people to kind of run it autonomously if he's not there. Now, obviously, he was still involved, whether it's, phoning in or videoing in. But the fact of the matter is, we don't know. We really have no idea how they're going to structure this going forward. And that's going to be a really interesting thing to try to figure out as NXT goes onto TV. I think we'll be able to tell if Vince has his fingers a little bit more in that pie creatively, just because we've seen what NXT has been. And I really don't think that that's going to change too much of what they are if they go to 2 hours. We saw this week on NXT that they're trying to build that roster. They're trying to get enough people be a part of that roster that they can run a 2-hour show. And as of right now, based on just looking at their roster depth, I think they absolutely can. They're building a lot of feuds that are not in the title pictures that they'll be able to fill time with.
Especially if you keep in mind that there's still, speculation about absorbing 205 Live. Bring that back in, counter-program 205 Live and NXT against AEW. Yeah, it's like you said earlier. It's kind of side-by-side, made for each other sort of product counter-programming. So I could totally see that happening. Plus, like you said, we had some things happen this week that I won't spoil yet until we get there. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening right now in NXT as we move on to sort of the next era, the non-undisputed era thing, kind of. Anyway, lost myself in that one. But yeah, there's a lot happening in NXT right now. I'm anxious to see how we continue and how things progress as we get more and more into it.
Lots of things are percolating. And actually, Dog Ziggler's over in the corner here destroying something. And it actually reminds me of a point I wanted to make. And that is that it's interesting that at Double or Nothing, Cody destroyed a chair in the shape of the Triple H cross, right? Not a WWE, like nothing specific to WWE, something specific to the iconography of Triple H. It seems a little prophetic now. It seems a little bit prophetic that he would make this something directly between him and Triple H at that point. One wonders. I know some conspiracy nuts have already taken that and run with it, but I wanted to point that out as being an interesting bit of iconography to note.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
It'll be something we call back on.
Oh, okay.
But yes, lots to look at there as we go from summer, which has been already a nuts summer, to probably one of the most interesting falls in professional wrestling in recent memory. This is going to be bananas this fall, and they're setting up all the pieces on the chessboard. Nick, I think if nothing else, if you're a fan, I think it's ridiculous to not think of this as anything but best for the fans.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I mean, the only downside is it's going to be tough to figure out what you're going to watch. It's going to be like Monday Night Wars again, where you flip back and forth.
That's it.
You know what?
Do they get smart enough to align the commercial breaks? TNT and USA, do they work? Do they try to subterfuge each other and line up against each other's commercial breaks? And that's the kind of shit behind the scenes.
Do they try to spoil what's on each other's TV?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Orange Cassidy's on AEW. That'll put butts in seats. Like, what's going to happen? I'm very curious to see. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for everyone involved. And anyone who's already picking sides, I think you're out of your mind. Just wait and let it happen.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. There's going to be a lot of good wrestling coming your way. But speaking of lots of good wrestling, Nick, we have a fairly large week to talk about in WWE specifically. So let's not waste any more time and get over and talk about Monday Night Raw.
I'm going to make the statement that I think we've got a mole in the patronage. And that's going to resonate throughout today's show because there were several places that there were certain references made that were way too close to my crazy fantasy booking, right?
And not only
the shit that you lost your mind at.
But even stuff we said on the show last week, like I obviously, hashtag they listen is it's an ongoing joke here. Like, right. And we definitely take it with a grain of salt. Don't
take it too seriously, but it's a lot of fun.
This week was a little scary. That being said, Nick, as you sit there with your Braun Strowman beard and your Braun Strowman guy and your microphone, your Braun Strowman necklace on your Nia Jax shrine, that's a lot of Braun Strowman in there. Yeah. And there was a lot of Braun Strowman this week on Monday Night Raw. Not only did he have a U.S. title match against AJ Styles that unsurprisingly was broken up by the OC, but then he was saved by Seth Rollins. They had a little bit of a talk in the back about how Braun Strowman, he wants that Universal title. Seth knows that. But Seth got it worked out so that he and Braun would have a title match for the tag team championships on Raw. Why not?
Sure.
So at the end of the whole show, we have Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman against the OC for the Raw tag belts. And by God, they won. They got the tag belts. Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman, now not only is Seth the Universal Champion, he's also co-tag champion with Braun Strowman.
Two-time. Braun Strowman's now two-time Raw Tag Team Champion.
Yes. At least this time he's actually with a legitimate competitor, only once again, I just don't understand why they I do understand why they strapped him, but I was just sitting there just head in hands going, "Wow, oh God."
One of the best memes of the week was a pane of Braun and Nicholas holding their championships, and then Braun and Seth down below, and it said, "Nicholas finally finished school."
Yeah, Nicholas grew up, and he came back and became Universal Champion. Obviously, so we know this is old school booking. This has been done for years and years and years. You get your two guys in your major title picture. if you haven't got a feud for them, you make them tag champs, and then they're forced to be together, and things fall apart, and they end up facing each other. This also is particularly relevant for Clash of Champions season when all titles have to be defended, which means that not only will Braun and Seth have to defend their tag championships, Seth will have to defend his Universal Championship, and he's already said that Braun should be first in line for that. So this is just all going to be grist for that mill. Fine, I think that actually could be an interesting program. And I think the only reason people just kind of shook their heads about it is, once again, it's the Raw Tag Team Championships being used as a prop when they've already lost a lot of their relevance by being bounced around right and left for the last, long time. It's been a very slim amount of time they were relevant this year.
At this point.
They looked like they were going in the right direction for a while there, and then now they're not. Do you think this was the right decision to take it off of the OC and use it as a prop for Seth and Braun?
Nope.
Okay.
Do not.
Why is that? Is it just your personal feelings about it, or just what?
No, it's just not it's not the way I would have done it, damn it.
#MoWrestling.
Put that aside for a second. No, you had a great moment last week where Braun came in, saved Seth from the evil of the baddies, the evil OC, and handed him very abruptly his Universal Championship back. And you could have cut out the whole tag titles thing and just gone on with that the way that it lined up this week. So what you need? Gallows and Anderson needed those titles more than anybody, and you just yanked them off of them.
It really did help the OC feel like a power group, and to have them lose it so quickly after getting them, it does kind of undercut them a little bit. And it's tough because I feel like it was a situation where they promised Gallows and Anderson the tag belts to make them stick around, because they were 1 foot out the door earlier this spring.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what they did with the Revival, where they're like, yeah, guys, you can have the tag belts. And then they just they give it to them, and then they take it right back off of them. Like, all right, you got them. Cool. You happy now? I wonder if that's what's going on, or if they have a plan to get them back on the OC, which I would imagine they would, so they can go and just have Braun and Seth have their title match. But that's the other thing that I'm worried about here, though, is Braun Strowman is just starting to get his mojo back. The crowd is back on his side again. He's starting to get a little bit of momentum. Is this the time? Like, do they turn him heel here, or is this? I mean, because that's typically what happens. Is one of the guys turns heel, right? Mega Powers, Macho Man turns heel. 2-man power trip with Stone Cold and Triple H. Before Triple H got injured, it was going to be that one of that Triple H turned heel on Stone Cold. That's the pattern. Is it like, should they turn Braun heel?
No,
or is he better?
Because I feel like we learned that lesson already last fall with McIntyre and Corbin.
Did we learn the lesson? Did we learn the lesson, or did we learn the lesson?
Let's say maybe they didn't learn the lesson, but it was an abject failure to try and do it last year, and we saw what it did to Braun. He is an absolute face. He's one of those that I don't know if he can be a heel, frankly. He needs to be a face. He needs to be the big monster that comes out and saves everybody. Could a Braun Strowman heel turn work? Maybe solo, but it didn't work as part of a big group last fall, and that puts me in a position where I got to say, is Seth going to turn again?
I can't, not at this point. They've invested way too much in him being the face of the company at this point for him to go heel. I just wonder if it's something where they can work up a storyline like what they've done a couple of times, where it's quote unquote competitive, and it's AJ and Seth, and they're just competitive with each other, or AJ and Daniel Bryan. It's we're just competition. Yeah. One of the guys has to become a bit of a dick in that scenario, and I think they might be able to walk that line with Braun. But what terrible timing to do it when he, like I said, he's just starting to get that mojo back, and I don't know. I mean, if you're going to make him a heel, you just have to make him an absolute evil monster heel. Keep him out away from other people. Have him be this insane, destructive force. And they've had a hard time doing that in the past and not making him look like an idiot. So I'm nervous about the potential of him turning heel, just because it's been bungled before, and they've kind of bungled the Braun Strowman experiment a few times, and that's why he's at where he's at and not the biggest guy in their company. And that might be because of Braun as a performer, he definitely has screwed up a couple of times on his own, where he's done the wrong thing. But I just, it's one of those things where you look at him in terms of his physical attributes. The guy can work the mic. You know, he's not Rock level, he's not Mensa level on the mic, but he's completely serviceable. He's better than a lot of the roster on the mic. You know, he's big, he can work. Why, how is this not a home run? You know, so that's
what's interesting, and you know, Butters, get out of my head, just said the same thing in the chat. I don't know that they could get away with this with Becky still being somewhat of being in the picture. Like if they made such a big deal, which I think was a huge mistake for the record, making such a big deal about boyfriend-girlfriend stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think that even Becky and Seth have acknowledged that was a terrible idea. Like out of cave.
But you've now painted yourself into a corner where you can't do anything outside of that, or that would taint that. If they break up for whatever reason, it would make great TV, and one of them turns and goes on a rampage. You know, but outside of that, I don't know. What do? You can't do it to Seth. So we've established you really can't do it with Braun unless you just absolutely knock it out of the park. Like I don't know if you get another do-over with Braun. You've managed to resurrect him to an extent, but man, and as I said on our Patreon bonus episode, the second to last one, they are really, I feel like they're squandering Braun. And I've been really excited to watch over the last couple of weeks as this sort of resurgence has come back, and I'm going, oh, don't mess it up. Don't mess it up, please. And then they put the tag titles on him this week, and I just, oh, God, no, not this again.
The thing is, it's interesting. It's not the tag titles that worries me about Braun. It's the program with Seth. You know, like if they were going to keep, like, I know you hate having the two singles wrestlers beating a genuine tag team. That's just, but you know what? If you're going to watch WWE, get used to that. That's just how they book.
Yeah.
It's not them being in a tag team. It's not them being the tag team champs. It's, for me, it's the danger that they run by having two of who should be their biggest faces facing off.
Yeah. And
I can, you know, there's a lot of people that should be facing Seth Rollins that are heels and could be elevated to that level.
No, it would have been a great set to remove the tag titles out of the picture, and we got to move on because we're beating this to horse to death. But what a great setup for Clash of Champions to have two of your biggest faces, pun intended, in Clash of Champions for your biggest title. Which hurts me to say that Universal title is their biggest title, but it is. We've all established that at this point. What better way to have that going into Clash of Champions? The whole tag team titles thing, unnecessary, and frankly did more damage to the OC and Gallows and Anderson than it did do good for either of those two or the upcoming feud that they're getting into. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. No, I have a feeling the belts will go back on Gallows and Anderson, and that'll spin off into something else. This is just a temporary prop. But as you said, we do have to move on and talk about something else that happened on this show that was a big deal. Sasha Banks is back. She is a heel. She is the heeliest of heels, busting up Natalya again, messing her up backstage after giving an interview in response to a Becky promo. I did all that in reverse. Becky gave a promo first, which was a fantastic promo talking about how she wants the best. She wants everyone to be the best when they face her. That's why she instigates. And Sasha's back. And Becky said, look, you were never really good. You're the greatest woman to never be great in WWE. It was a great promo. It was just the right amount of kayfabe tweaking, just the right amount of, oh, crap, she said that. And I think it was a good start to this and Sasha feud. And then carrying forward to Sasha's quote unquote interview backstage, which ended abruptly. It was Sasha saying, oh yeah, everyone's talking about my blue hair. And then when they said, by the way, you know, you came out and beat up Becky and Natalya last week, what do you have to say to that? She just went, you're welcome. Got up. That was it for the interview. And she went up, beat the crap out of Natalya, and gave probably one of the great heel lines of the week, which was, hey, Natalya, I'll see you in hell, and say hi to your daddy while you're there.
Damn.
Yeah. And I even saw people being like, that's just tasteless. I'm like, that's just wrestling. That's WWE. Use real tragedy for heat.
Right.
Whatever. It was fine. I didn't rate it. How do you feel about Sasha now that she's back? Are you welcome are you ready to welcome back our blue-haired overlord, or do you feel like there's parts of this that could be improved?
Well, at the risk of repeating myself, I feel like the execution's terrible. I'm very
Really?
happy Sasha Banks is back. Fact.
Okay.
I went over last week how they could have done it against Bayley, had her come out and beat her down, punch her, ambush her after her match at SummerSlam. But big return, SummerSlam, super Healy, and then they go off into the feud. This whole bit with Natalya is really just it's like watching molasses pour out. It's just awful. And I'm not invested in it. I couldn't give two shits. They should have done something bigger and better than what they've done so far, frankly. For someone as big as Sasha Banks to have been gone for as long as she has, and all of the speculation that she wasn't ever going to come back, wink, wink, to have her return to just kind of ambush Natalya while she's giving a somber So now we're 2 weeks into this.
I think you're still angry at last week and how they brought her back initially, which I will agree I thought was underwhelming. But this week I thought was a good job at righting the ship, really giving us an idea of what Sasha was, what Becky is, and Natalya was the prop in this particular instance, where she was just basically the thing that's there. I have a feeling that before Sasha goes for Becky, she and Natalya have a small program where she just wipes the floor with Natalya, something along those lines. I don't think that it's wise to keep flipping Natalya back and forth. Nope. Is she face? Is she heel? Should we like her? Should we not? We can't tell. It's one of the reasons why Natalya can't get any traction. But I had no problem with Sasha this week. I thought Sasha actually really stepped up this week. By the way, really upped her promo game too, where we tend to somewhat mean-spiritedly, and we should probably stop, but we tend to make fun of Sasha being a little bit marble-mouthed. This week, very clear, very concise. I thought she nailed her backstage interview. And that was, I thought, a really strong step in the right direction that we saw from Sasha. So I liked a lot of what I saw this week. I'm actually very much anticipating Red versus Blue. It's a Halo reference for those of you who play the video gameage. Here's the thing. I think it's going to be a great program. I can't wait for it to get going. This to me was exciting. So I just wonder who people are going to root for, because everyone still thinks they should root for Sasha. They're going to have to do something besides having her beat up Natalya to get her booed.
Thank you.
Because people.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, she looks mean, but people are also kind of like, yeah, screw Natalya.
Toronto would have lost their minds had she come out after Bayley beat Ember Moon and was celebrating in the ring for her victory, retained her championship, and out comes Sasha, just bashes her with a chair over the head or something, or in the back.
Yeah, we can cry over spilt milk,
God.
or we can look at what we have. We can look at what we have, which, you know what I mean? Like, okay, they didn't do that, but this week I thought they did some good stuff. Another thing they did that was good, Sasha was supposed to be interviewed by Jerry Lawler in the middle of the ring for King's Court. That didn't happen because the lights started going out as Jerry was standing in the ring, and Jerry, which I thought was nice. Jerry goes, I know what this is. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
He starts trying to run away, gets to the top of the ramp by the time the lights go completely out, and that's where the Fiend catches him, mandible claws him, and then vanishes to be scooped up by the referees. So another Fiend attack. It looks like he's going to continue on this Randy Orton-esque of killing the legends of the past. I gotta say, Nick, the only problem I had with this was that Jerry Lawler was on commentary for the first about hour of the evening, and then after that we got Vic Joseph instead. What do you think about the Fiend kind of continuing to be used in this way, and the fact that we didn't get 3 hours of Jerry Lawler?
Okay. The second part, fine. Make a cameo, do an hour, do a segment, fine. Put somebody over, fantastic. It's kind of your job as legends, right? This was handled and executed very well. By the way, quick aside, do you know the most terrifying thing about The Fiend? And I would give everybody the homework assignment to go back and watch it if you didn't notice it. When he has Lawler in the mandible claw at the top of the ramp, listen very closely, turn the volume up, and you can hear the guttural grunts and screams of Bray Wyatt as he's putting this onto Jerry Lawler. It's actually terrifying when you hear that. There was the Michael Myers remake movie that Zombie did, right? And everybody was all upset that he was actually made noise when he was stabbing people. Anyway, that's what it sounded like to me. It was like he was like literally killing him.
Don't you get me started on breaking down Halloween movies. You know how I am, Nick.
Oh,
You know,
we're only about a month away. I'm so excited. Give it a quick plug for everybody that might not know.
Yes. We'll get to that at some point.
Okay,
I'll self-promote another time. We got to get through Raw here.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jerry the King Lawler, it was the beginning of the King of the Ring tournament this week. We had a couple of first-round matches, Cesaro versus Samoa Joe, and Cedric Alexander versus Sami Zayn. Joe beat Cesaro. No real surprise there. Kind of disappointing that once again Cesaro, kind of left out, hanging out to dry. At least he was in it, I guess. I'm looking forward to them actually utilizing him.
Nice new Solo-tron for him and music this week. No more 007 Cesaro. 00 Cesaro.
He's had this for a little while now. I've seen him use this a couple of times. I think it's interesting to note everyone who's using green, like that bright neon green in their entrance, pretty much universally is getting misused. Whether it's Apollo Crews or Cesaro, someone else had it this week. I'm trying to remember who it was, at like the bright neon green, and I'm like, man, it's just everybody who they're kind of underutilizing or don't know what to do with. Give him a green Tron. It'll be exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Joe moves on. He's going to face Ricochet or Drew McIntyre. I think that's probably the most interesting match in all of the King of the Ring tournament. Ricochet or Drew McIntyre. King Ricochet, if you're watching the YouTube right now, Nick is wearing a King Ricochet shirt. Or King Drew. And it's hard to argue with Booker T, who called in by Skype this week on the show and said it's going to be King Drew. He believes it's going to be King Drew. When King Booker says it's going to be somebody, you tend to believe him. So that's really going to be a big tell if it's going to be Drew or Ricochet in that match next week.
Yeah. No, I'm all in on Drew myself, frankly.
I think Drew's a smart pick just because, Cedric beat Sami Zayn, and Cedric and Drew have been having issues, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kept that feud going.
Yeah, and he can land that promo when he wins. That big celebratory moment. That Drew McIntyre is going to be absolute fire. That's been my pick since I heard about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, if Ricochet goes through here, I'm going to have a hard time not picking Ricochet just because King Ricochet, it's already a thing.
It's literally his Instagram handle.
right. He's been King Ricochet for years. Just make it official.
Yes.
Put a cape on him. He won't. He's one of the few guys that won't look ridiculous in a crown with a cape.
True.
Right?
That's true.
He can pull off everything, including a silly Nightwing onesie.
That looked fantastic.
We also had the New Day and Revival. They had a tag match on Raw because wild card rules apparently still out there as an excuse for everything. But this got interrupted because at a certain point, Randy Orton came out, RKO out of nowhere, interrupted the match, which brought out Kofi Kingston. Kofi gets taken out by an RKO as well and has to watch as they break Xavier Woods' knee, supposedly, which it's interesting. I'm curious why they would hobble Xavier right now, or at least in kayfabe say he was that messed up by it, because we'll talk about it on SmackDown, but it looks like Revival and New Day are heading towards a title match at Clash of Champions.
Raw?
This is all still kind of redundant from last week. Did you feel this was violent enough and in your face enough to not feel too redundant from last week?
No, I'm fine. The only thing that threw me for a loop was when I saw the SmackDown Tag Team Championships come out on Raw. And I just, from that point forward, I was just like, oh God, my head exploded. I can't make this compute. Like, why are you doing this? Why do we have more than one set of championships at this point?
I'll tell you right now why we do, because the Raw Tag Championships are being used as props. At least the SmackDown Tag Championships are being used as tag belts for tag teams.
Fair point.
So look at it from that way, and you're kind of actually getting your cake, and Vince is getting to eat it too. So I'm actually kind of not mad at that. And I like the Revival and Randy Orton connection, even though they look kind of like it looks a little bit like Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers again, where they're like tiny versions of the big guy. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at Revival RKO. It's kind of fun.
FTRKO. Hashtag
FTRKO. Yeah, that works. That works. FTRKO. Anyway, we also had a couple of matches that were a little less relevant this week. Roman Reigns opened the show by having a match with Dolph Ziggler, who again ran his mouth and got beaten down and taken out by a spear. Cool. I I think Dolph is still on the F me tour. I I pissed somebody off, or he's doing a good heel job. The crowd was really hated him. So in that sense, he's being successful.
Yeah.
It was just kind of an irrelevant match. It was just kind of there. Also in a kind of a King of the Ring preview match, we had Ricochet and Miz versus Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre. Baron Corbin, yeah. So they're all kind of salted together. Miz versus Baron Corbin is happening next week. Drew McIntyre versus Ricochet. But Ricochet beat Baron Corbin clean here. Does that kind of doom Ricochet for King of the Ring? Because they tend to like to do that even booking.
Yeah.
Is Ricochet looking good here? Ricochet and Miz here. That looks bad, doesn't it?
Let Ricochet get the moment here because Drew's going over. And, frankly, I don't even know who to pick between Baron Corbin or the Miz. So that's the one
Both
I'm worried about.
This hurts to say, but they're both kind of boring right now.
They are.
Corbin hasn't really been exciting, well, in a long time. Although I don't mind him as a worker, they haven't booked him to be exciting.
No.
And Miz as a face is getting slowly more and more stale. Not even slowly. It's just, it's getting stale like bread left out on the counter.
Well, I got excited. Well, I got excited on SmackDown. We'll talk about that when we get back.
Let's get to SmackDown. I've got to talk a couple more things here.
Yeah.
Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross beat Fire and Desire. We thought last week, Nick, this is proof that they listen and they don't care. We said last week Fire and Desire could be good opponents for Cross and Bliss, and they said, you're right. Here, let's show you. See how good of opponents they are? Boom, done. All right, that's over. No one's out. No one's in the pipeline now for Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. You're welcome. Elias has the 24/7 championship. He was going to give a farewell performance and run off in the sunset with it, but he got attacked and chased off by R-Truth. And then, okay, Nick, here we go. Here's the one where I think a lot of people, they blew up the Discord server. They were banging down the doors because Rey Mysterio threatened to retire. He started to remove his mask and said, I can't do what I used to do. My body's not moving the way my mind is telling it to. I think it's time for me to retire. And he began to take off his mask, which is a sign of a luchador retiring, even though he took his mask off in WCW. But shh, don't bring that up. Starts to take his mask off, and he's immediately stopped by his lumbering oaf of a son, Dominic, who proceeds to cut the most unconvincing emotional promo of all time, saying, "No, Dad, you can't retire yet. I've always dreamed of tag teaming with you." And Ray said, "Okay, son, yes, we'll tag team together." Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not a patron of our show, you may have missed the bonus episode where Nick booked half the year, and I slowly tried to drink myself into a cold oblivion. Nick, how much did your head explode when they started to use your booking that we all thought was completely ridiculous? They started to use your booking on WWE TV.
It didn't start here. You can go back to, was it SummerSlam when the OC walked in to Finn Balor in the locker room? You could call back reference to Fire and Desire actually operating as a tag team. You could call the OC forming together as the Phenomenal Ones. I know that makes your head explode.
But they didn't actually
there's a lot that they've been listening to, which is why I said at the top of this show, I'm convinced that we have a mole in the patronage, and I am determined to find out which one of you works for WWE Creative, because it's getting to a point where it's just too similar, and it's kind of scary that the stuff that's in my head that's absolutely batshit bug nutty crazy, they're actually starting to hint at doing on TV.
The funny thing is sometimes you say stuff, like you book stuff that's just head-scratchingly insane. But on other times you say things that like this isn't insane. This actually is kind of a logical progression to the Rey Mysterio storyline, especially because we do know that in real life he does want to get his son Dominic into wrestling, and this is one way to do it. To have his son debut with him, get his son over a little bit here. So in that sense, it does make sense that they would do this. That being said, is this going to be a complete shit show? Like,
yes.
I'm worried about Dominic
just
and
completely
Rey
yes.
Oh, God.
It's going to go down in flames, and it's going to be glorious to watch, and we're just all going to everybody's going to go, oh, they should have done Nick's idea.
I don't know if they're ever going to say that, but at the same time, yeah, I am nervous about Dominic Mysterio getting in the ring. I'm curious to see what
you mean Guerrero.
Rey's son can do in this scenario. Obviously, he's going to be protected because he's teaming with his dad, but And I suspect it will be. I'm going to say it right now, and y'all can watch them listen and do exactly this. But it'll be Rey Mysterio getting beaten down for a significant portion of the match, hot tagging Dominic, who comes in, gets a few big, The Rock-esque moves, and then that's it. So we'll see what happens with that. But Nick, that wasn't it for WWE this week. They had more things that they ripped off from us over on SmackDown Live.
Well, Corey Graves continues to be on vacation, doing God knows
Corey
what.
Graves things.
Yeah, doing Graves things.
I didn't see
going
Carmella
to
this week.
a Screamo show, new metal show, or getting some new tattoos or something like that. As Corey Graves
horrible to his hair again.
Sure, yeah. I don't know. He doesn't have any hair anymore. He shaved it off.
Probably for the best.
Anyway, we had the Harvard graduate himself, David Otunga, on the commentary this week. So Sir Ian Dangerous has named this SmackDown Live the David Otunga edition. Very aptly.
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, listen. There were a lot of good things that happened on this edition of SmackDown Live this week. And there were a lot of things that left me going, huh?
I have to say, overall, the show was very strong.
It was.
But man, did it end on a terrible, terrible note. We'll get to that. Let's run down the sort of the main through line of the show. Daniel Bryan he had promised to bring out the true culprit behind the attacks on Roman Reigns, and he was leading around a hooded guy all night, put him in a chair and said, "Don't you move or I'll kill you." And so he was, I'm going to reveal who it is at the end of the show. All right, fine. In the meantime, he has a match with Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy, meanwhile, gets a confrontation with Roman Reigns. Roman saying, you say it's Rowan, you say it's not Rowan. What's going on, dude? Do I have to kick your butt? Buddy saying, hey, man, I just said it looked like Rowan. What do you want from me? He has to go out and have a match with Daniel Bryan. And I'll be damned if Buddy Murphy and Daniel Bryan didn't just put on a great, fantastic WWE match.
Yes, more, please. Oh, yes.
Good stuff, particularly because Buddy Murphy got to work 1 week as a heel with Roman, 1 week as a face with Daniel Bryan. He looked good in both matches. Man, he had that crowd. Sioux City, South Dakota, by the way, which they didn't even mention who you guys were on SmackDown. I don't know if they were embarrassed by it, but they shouldn't have been, because that crowd was lit up, and I liked it.
Yes.
They were lit up for this match. We had Go Buddy chants. They got invested in this, and to their credit, it was because the two performers in this match told a fantastic babyface story with Buddy Murphy getting really beaten up by Daniel Bryan before mounting a comeback and gritting through some stuff, and ended up beating Daniel Bryan clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring, despite some Rowan interference. Fantastic stuff.
How many more times am I going to have to watch that whole video package, by the way? Because it keeps getting longer, because they keep doing it all the way from the very beginning. And they keep bolting stuff onto the end of it. Like, it's going to be an hour of the show by the time we get done. And we've watched it probably 20 times now between SummerSlam, the kickoff show, and the weekly programming of the last 4 weeks. Why? Just stop showing me the same shit over and over again. We get it. He's in a feud.
The problem is, if you really look at the programming, how much of it is recaps. They interrupt ring entrances to do recaps on the storylines for these people. Like, give us the credit to just be able to pick up on it, and you don't have to baby feed us every single detail of a storyline.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually an element of current WWE programming that really does rub me the wrong way, is how much is taken up by excessive recapping. I don't mind a bullet point recap, the announcers recapping it through the match or whatever, but interrupting everything to show us, especially, as you said, with how long this Roman one is getting, with this ongoing saga of what's going on with Roman Reigns. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns was standing backstage. And it's getting to be too much. I completely agree. That being said, when you have elements of this whole thing, like the Daniel Bryan and Buddy Murphy match, like the Roman and Buddy Murphy match, Murphy wasn't even supposed to be a part of this whole thing. But because they need to drag it out until probably right before Clash of Champions, they're like, all right, he was in the background of that one shot. Let's make him a suspect and insert him into it. He just had two amazing matches with two of the top guys in WWE. How much do you think backstage is appreciating the fact that Buddy Murphy just grabbed the brass ring on this?
Oh, yeah. Big time. And they changed his music again this week, so they're working on him. They're working on his packaging.
Man. His music from last week was like bad creator wrestler, awful stuff. Like it was just generic wrestler number one. This week was a little better.
Yeah.
It
still
great.
wasn't Techno Viking that I want back. But this one wasn't bad. I could actually jam this one. I can't wait for it to show up online so I can listen to it, outside of the arena.
Well, here's the thing. It reminds me a little bit of American Alpha's music when they first came out and the horns were really tinny. Like the production was really awful on it. The song was there, but the production sounded like crap.
Yeah.
This song that they have for Buddy Murphy, I feel if they tweak it and produce it a little bit more, it could be good. It could be listenable. Kind of like how Pete Dunne's music is really boring, but they put so much punch into it that now you hear it and it does amp you up. I feel like this current Buddy Murphy music's kind of like that. But
come on, guys, I can do audio routing. I mean, look at this stream. Route the audio from the live into the ears of the listeners rather than making us listen to the PA. That's one of the big downfalls of New Japan. You have to listen to the entrance themes over the PA coming in over your speakers. They should be able to pipe that directly out to TV.
Osprey and whatnot. But at any rate, so later on the show, Buddy Murphy gets beaten down for beating Daniel Bryan. Once again, I think if they're going to try and make Murphy look like kind of a badass face who fights upwards, it's a good way to do it that they're doing right now. He's getting beaten down by impossible odds. He got beaten up by Roman, but still stands up to him and gave him a respectable match. He beat Daniel Bryan and then took his licks for doing so. I think they're doing a good job of leaving Buddy Murphy with a lot to work with here. So I like that. But I didn't like the fact that at the end of the show, Roman came to Daniel Bryan and Rowan's little cubicle room in the back of the arena where the hooded man was sitting. And the hooded man was unmasked. Nick, I don't know how to describe this better than this was like a Scooby-Doo thing. This was like Old Man Withers was unmasked, and he turned out to be a guy who was, I think they were trying to make us believe that it was just a guy who looked exactly like Rowan, but a little bit older and kind of funky. He's even sat the same way and like sniffed the same way, but like a very obviously glued on large red beard. I don't think it was like supposed to be made up to look like him. I think he was genuinely supposed to be him. Yeah. Be like him, but
no, it wasn't Rowan. It was this guy that looks just like him, right? Yeah.
Who is this guy? Why is he here? What is his role here? What is the, Like, I think that it was supposed to be funny. We have no idea how they were supposed to be playing this.
I thought it was
brilliant. I can't tell if it was supposed to be amusing or if they were genuinely like, no. They found the guy.
I think it was very clever and brilliant, and you were left, without explaining who this guy is, you were left to your own interpretation, and I thought that was a brilliant cliffhanger. Tune in next week where we'll play the entire recap of the entire thing from beginning all the way up to this point now, and it'll take 20 minutes. No, I thought this was really clever, a clever way to end the show.
Really?
Truthfully,
you liked this?
I did like this because it's smart, it's clever.
It's smart? What? How? Please explain to me in what way it's smart. That's right over my head. How is
because
this
it really was Rowan, but he's trying to throw Roman off the scent by pitching him this other guy.
Who is this other guy, though? How
doesn't matter.
Throwing anybody off the scent?
It's funny. It's clever. It's, no, it wasn't Roman. It was this guy with a red beard. Yeah, that's the ticket.
I feel like someone's trying to explain to me that there are like deep psychosocial underpinnings in Billy Madison. What? I don't understand how you see this as being smart, where they don't give us any context to appreciate what the point of this was. Like, why? Who is this guy supposed to be? How did they find him? Why was he doing all this to Roman and happened to look exactly like Rowan? This doesn't throw anyone off the trail of anything. It was just ridiculous. It made me feel like the writers are making this up as they go on. This to me, okay, if anyone out there ever watched the show Lost, this is one of my albatrosses. This is one of my consistent horses that I go back and beat. Is that show could have been one of the greatest shows in the history of television. And while it was going on, the writers would openly say, when people said, "What? You guys know what's going on, right? This is all so confusing. How do you keep it straight?" And the writers all said, "Don't worry, we got this. We know exactly what's happening with the show." But of course, if you know anything about Damon Lindelof, you know that he loves to write in a way that asks questions that he does not have answers for.
Yeah.
And all he does is just say, well, it just happened. Don't worry about it.
Exhibit A, Prometheus.
Right. Oh, that's prime exhibit, where he just throws things out there and they have no explanation in the universe. He's like, the fans will just figure it out. That's how Lost was written. And that's what we found out when they finally finished Lost and they had a completely bungled ending. I don't care what people say. They had no idea what they were doing with that show. And the writers came out afterwards and openly admitted, as they were writing that show, they had no idea where they were going, and they were just told to keep people guessing because that was the nature of the show. That is what this feels like. Let's do something crazy that makes people go, and that's a really smart twist. What if this guy really is Rowan's like evil twin brother? No, they did something dumb to kill time to make you think that they've got a bigger plan going on here. That's what it feels like to me.
Okay.
Good retort.
Okay.
Good retort.
Yep.
I guess we'll see as
it was weird to end the show. It was weird to go to black with Roman standing there just kind of scratching his beard and going, who is this man? Why does he look exactly like Rowan? It makes Roman look kind of dumb, and just okay,
It makes Daniel Bryan and Rowan look kind of dumb too, because if they were trying to trust this guy up as being the real culprit, like that's what they came up with. Yeah, this is dumb all around. I don't know how you think this is smart. Real quick before we move on, Rowan shirt watch.
Rowan shirt watch.
Excellent one this week.
Yes.
Satyricon.
I think fantastic.
It's his first genuine black metal shirt. And by the way, if you're not into black metal, that's a great entry-level band for black metal. Satyricon's fantastic.
Yes.
All right. Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton continues this week. Randy Orton coming out, cutting a promo on Kofi, saying he loved making Kofi watch as they trash Xavier Woods' leg. Kofi's music hits. Randy's ready for him, but Kofi with a Trouble in Paradise out of nowhere from behind on Randy. And he goes and tries to break Randy's leg with a chair, but Randy gets saved by the beaten-up Revival because the Revival had been beaten up earlier in the evening. Do you think that this is heading towards Hell in a Cell? That might be out of left field, by the way. But to me, this feels like this is escalating so much. This isn't going to end at Clash of Champions. They're going to take this all the way to October with Hell in a Cell. That's me just picking it out of the air.
I will say I like Revival and Randy Orton against all three members of the New Day and the various combinations that you could come up with for matches and booking there. I do like that. I didn't ever think that I would say that out loud, but it kind of works. Randy Orton with the Revival works. You've already got a hashtag, right? You've got the merch. Sell the merch already. Hell, I might even put that on a T-shirt so we can. Anyway,
even the style of working where the Revival are very old school. Randy's very old school.
Yes. Stomping hands and working. No flips, just fist. All that stuff. Yeah, it works really well, and I would have never put those two together. But it's kind of genius. So I'm not mad at this. Does it go to Hell in a Cell? I don't know. We're gonna have a 6-man tag in Hell in a Cell. We had New Day and who was it a couple years ago?
I'm just talking about Randy and Kofi. This has gotten to a level of physicality and violence where, to me, it screams like this is going to have to blow off in a cell.
Yeah.
That's my speculation.
I think Randy and Kofi will continue to ramp up to. I thought you were referring to the 6-man New Day versus
FTRKO.
Strictly
Kofi and Randy.
I'll say this, though. We had that combination Shatter Machine set up into an RKO that was one of the best things I've ever seen, frankly, in wrestling. Please keep doing that because that was fantastic.
So my other question is having Kofi get this brutal, like what happened at the end of his match at SummerSlam and what's happening here where he went to break Randy's leg in reciprocity for what happened to Xavier, is that in any way, do you think that that's contradictory to his New Day kind of happy-go-lucky persona, or is it necessary to have people take Kofi seriously?
The latter. I think it's necessary because at this point he's been a little of a yay, happy-go-lucky, I'm in New Day, here's some pancakes. He's had a couple of moments of strength of cutting some pretty good promos on people. But yeah, mostly he's been viewed as, this tiny little lanky streak of piss that's Kofi Kingston he's the champion currently, right? So he's now that he's actually going out there and doing some stuff that's a little bit vicious, it's showing a different side of him. I don't know if it's good for his face persona, but I'm not mad at it. I like physicality. I want to see these guys. I want to see Kofi Kingston get up to the level of the Revival and Randy Orton.
Funnily enough, I tend to like when faces get vicious, and especially comedy faces when they, as a way to underpin that, hey, I can be happy-go-lucky and fun-loving, but don't piss me off.
Yeah.
I tend to like that. The very first show we ever did is Funny Money. I think that at a certain point to establish yourself as a legitimate contender, you have to drop the funny stuff and the comedy and prove that you can be serious. The thing is with here...
And we've always given New Day props for being able to do that, right?
Exactly. But the thing is they always did it without getting to a kind of a scary, psychotic level. And I feel like Kofi, there's been a couple of times where it just seems like for some reason it's not translating that he's doing this because Randy has pushed him too far. He's doing it because he's really psychotic. Like, I don't know. It's walking that line for me right now. I'm curious to see where they go with it.
Yeah, me too. Keep going though, because I like the programs. I like the promos. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. So keep going with it.
Yep, not mad at it at all. And I do like him still working the Randy Orton feud, even if they are overusing the word stupid a lot. Stupid.
I think it works for Randy Orton.
It works. Well,
their backstory, right? That they've told us a dozen times now. It fits. So I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, I could listen to Randy Orton say stupid all day because it's a beautiful way he enunciates it. Stupid. We also had a Revival match versus Heavy Machinery. They challenged New Day for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships at Clash of Champions, which we mentioned on our Raw segment. But the Revival beat Heavy Machinery probably as a way to legitimize them in the SmackDown tag world and show that they should be the first in line for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Were you fine with how this all worked out? New Day not being there, Revival challenging them, and then beating Heavy Machinery. Did that all work for you to build this match?
Yeah, I wasn't mad at it. I thought it was a fantastic match. I thought Heavy Machinery's coming along, guys. I'm continually kind of impressed with how much they're progressing. Not to say that it was all their fault in the very beginning when they first debuted. Well, the way they were getting booked and utilized was very poor. But we've seen them in the last couple of months, probably since the last couple of months. We've seen them have some legitimate matches and face off against legit teams and actually do very well and come out looking strong, whether or not they get the win. So, I mean,
they certainly entertain
Daniel Bryan and Rowan. You saw them this week with the Revival. So they're having some good matches. I think they're a future championship team, but just not yet. I like where the Revival's at right now. They need to carry some belts.
What you're saying is Heavy Machinery now on the main roster is basically kind of where they were in NXT. Where they're like a
couldn't quite get over the hump. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
There's never quite there for the belts, but everyone loves them when they come out. I mean, it could be worse. They could be the Ascension.
Yes.
King of the Ring did continue on the show. We had Andrade Cien Almas versus Apollo Crews and Kevin Owens versus Elias. Let's breeze through Andrade and Apollo. Not really surprised here. Andrade picks up the win. Once again, they're copying from our show. Last week I said that it would be great to have Andrade be called El Rey, given his recent feud with Rey Mysterio. Maybe it was just too logical to start calling him El Rey if he wins the King of the Ring, but I'll be damned if Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton don't owe me money for ripping that off. Because they dropped that a few times on this show. Andrade wants to be El Rey Andrade. I think it would be a good gimmick for him. He's my dark horse to go all the way. I think it would be a really good King of the Ring, and it would show that they're confident in him and they really do want to propel him up the ranks. He's like I think the definition of a guy who could take that and really run with it too. So let's talk more. By the way, also this was Otunga's moment of the week here. Where in this match he was putting over Apollo Crews, and they mentioned that he was at one point Andrade came off the top rope and Apollo drop kicked him in midair. And Otunga pointed out that Apollo is the same size as Otunga, and Otunga's like, I can't even fathom doing a drop kick at that height. That's how athletic Apollo is. He's my size, and dude's doing 6-foot-high drop kicks. I thought that was a great call. That's actually one of the finest calls I've ever heard Otunga give. So props where props is due.
Yes.
But let's talk about Kevin Owens.
I'm not sure I want to, honestly. I can't get my head around what's going on here.
Let me set you up, and then I'm going to let you go with this because
Okay.
Kevin Owens went to the backstage to talk to Shane and said, Shane, that $100,000 fine is really rough, man. That's a mortgage. That's my kid's college. Like, I'm a working class dude. I can't afford that. I'm not like you. I didn't come from money. That really stings. And Shane was like, let me think about it. Kevin Owens came back later in the show, said, would you please remove that fine? It's really rough. And Shane said, apologize. And without hesitation, Kevin Owens said, I'm really sorry. I'll never put my hands on an official again. And Shane said, good, because if you do, you're fired. And Kevin Owens said, I'm really sorry, man. Before we get to the match with Elias, how did this make you feel about the Kevin Owens character?
Took all the wind out of his sails. Before we even got to the match, I feel like it took
Right.
all the wind out of his sails, unless they flip him in a way that just says, oh, yeah, I just said that to not have to pay you $100,000 later on, right? This is so wishy-washy and back and forth, I can't get my head around what they're doing here. Let's talk about the match, because then I can talk about everything else without spoiling anything.
All right. Well, it's pretty straightforward. He had a match with Elias. Shane came out, revealed at the end of the match that he had a referee shirt on, fast countered him, screwed Kevin Owens out of the King of the Ring. The guy who a lot of people were picking to go all the way, that bracket is busted thanks to the best in the world. And Elias is now moving forward. Kevin Owens is out, screwed by Shane McMahon. So not only did Kevin Owens have to suck it up and apologize, by the way, he didn't even think about apology. He just did it. He then got screwed out of the King of the Ring. So where are you at now, Nick, with all of this?
I'm at where I've been for a long time, going all the way back to pre-Mania with Miz and Shane. I'm just done with Shane. And there was a point where it was like, yeah, I'm just getting worked, and it's that's exactly the intent. No, I'm past that now. I am done. It's not entertaining to me. You're not funny. You're not clever. You bring nothing to the program, and all you're doing is typical McMahon stuff, where you're kind of putting yourself over at the expense of some of the best people on the roster.
Take a step back from yourself for a second. Are you being worked? Is that the point that they're trying to is that what they're trying to do with Shane, is make people feel how you're feeling right now?
I mean, do we have to ride this all the way to the ultimate blow-off of Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania? Are we going to be here for another 8-9 months to get to that point where we get that payoff? Because, good God, I don't want to go on that ride. That sounds miserable. So, if what you speculate is true, yes, it will make it that much more worth it. We kind of said the same thing about Miz and Shane, though, and it never materialized.
That did kind of fizzle, but it seemed like they just turned the ship into Kevin Owens when Kevin Owens finally went face.
Fair.
What's interesting here is I feel like you'll feel differently next week. I feel like this was a setup for Kevin Owens to really explode.
If
next
he
week.
figures out a way to talk himself or work himself back into the tournament somehow. That's the
I don't
only
see
thing.
that.
Somebody gets injured and somehow he still ends up, pulling it. I don't know.
Let me stop real quick. I think the best case scenario would be that this is all a buildup to have Kevin Owens absolutely lose his mind and turn into like a vigilante on Shane and SmackDown in general. That would be the best possible option, so that would actually then undercut like how we feel right now about him apologizing and being kind of weak at this point. He has to go through these moments of weakness to become strong eventually, and he won't have those weaknesses in the future because he realizes they get him nowhere. That would be a good trajectory, I think, for his character, and that would actually validate what's going on with the plot of Shane and Kevin Owens right here. What would not be good is if Elias runs the whole thing with help from Shane, and then at the very end, Shane sneaks in and becomes King Shane. That is the darkest timeline. And those are two things that are both being speculated as possibly happening.
I don't know what I would do. I
What
have
would
to
you do,
prepare
though, if in
myself
the
for that
first
possibility,
situation-
honestly, because it's not that far-fetched that they really drive home. Like, this is the moonshot. This is the end-all, be-all. Like, Shane beat Miz at Mania. He's taken down Kevin Owens and gotten him kicked out of King of the Ring, and now he's going to go just win King of the Ring himself at the expense of Andrade, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, everybody.
everybody.
He's going to go win it. The WWE universe will collectively turn on WWE if that happens.
They'll burn it down.
Good
I will
Lord.
say, I will say this: he would be the best king in the world. Before we move on to the next section, Elias had a wonderful bit in the back with Drake Maverick before this match, where as he's walking down the aisle, the halls in the back, he realizes that the hooded man rummaging through some stuff conspicuously on the side is actually referee John Cone in a hoodie. And he asks him, where is he? Cone just kind of sheepishly points to a box on the other side. And Elias reaches in there and pulls out Drake Maverick, who, as he's pulling him out by the neck, Drake goes, I got you. I can't do this bit justice. I haven't laughed this hard at a bit in a while, all because everyone in this played this to perfection. This, to me, was comedy done right in WWE. This was beautiful. I love this. I just want to throw that out there. Definitely a bit worth going and watching. So, but it was basically just to establish the 24/7 rules were suspended for the night. So no
and
one
the little
could go
throwaway
after
line that Drake Maverick had at the end of, I just want to consummate my marriage.
I just want to consummate my marriage. The whole thing was beautiful. Not so beautiful, Chad Gable talking about his opportunity at King of the Ring next week versus former tag partner Shelton Benjamin, talking about how he's been overcoming things his entire career. People telling him he's too small to go to the Olympics. He's too small for WWE. He's not good enough to go to the Olympics, and he proved them wrong every time. And he turns around to Shelton Benjamin. In the meantime, has put a little sign on the door behind him that says, you must be this tall to enter the King of the Ring. Another short joke. Nick, I'm just going to preface this and your thoughts on it with the fact that WWE this week has trademarked a wrestler name, Shorty G.
Oh, no.
How are you feeling about this is not the first time. We also had Robert Roode give him some crap for being small. What do you think about the ongoing short jokes on Chad Gable? Probably one up there with Cesaro as being the most underutilized guy on the roster.
You know, I didn't really overthink this too much. I didn't really think too much about him being called Shorty G and things like that. I thought it was interesting that the one thing that you're going to do with Chad Gable is put him right back with Shelton Benjamin. And I was just like, come on, guys. You know, leave him on 205 Live. Let him get absorbed by NXT and let him go have some baller-ass matches. Whatever, they're shaving his hair, cutting all his hair off and all that stuff. Just, what have you done? You know? I don't know what let them repackage him. Maybe he comes back with a vengeance and we can all, put our foots back in our mouths. But until then, this might be one of the more recent squanders.
Before he comes out with the dancing rapper gimmick.
Right.
Shorty G, Chad Gable, one of the greatest wrestlers on their roster, and he's a dancing rapper. That being said, as far as utilization, I thought they also had a brilliant turn into utilizing someone to their fullest, well, maybe not fullest potential, but certainly to a potential. We had Miz TV, special guest Sami Zayn, who was out there to complain about his loss on Monday and realized that his real power wasn't necessarily in matches because he's been losing a lot, but it was an altruism. That's helping out other people who need his particular type of help. And the person he decided to help first and foremost, Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura, who came out and basically just said, yep, Sammy's my spokesperson now.
How awkward is it that the first 10 seconds of Shinsuke's entrance is now just silence and opening instrument cases? And where is his pop? Where is his bang? Where's his glass shatter? It's funny because they intentionally changed his music because fans were chanting along to it. That was literally the explanation that they gave for why they changed it. There's like, oh, well, he's going to be heel. We can't have fans chanting along to his heel music. Okay. So you took one of what was at the time the greatest entrances in WWE and hamstrung it. Cool. Good.
That
for
aside,
you. Congratulations.
This is a good move. This is a fantastically smart move because one of the things that's been consistently off with Shinsuke is his presentation in terms of promos. They have been making him cut promos where he's got reasonably good English, but it's very heavily accented. And when he's got the mouth guard in, it's especially bad. And then you have Sami Zayn, who's an absolute murderer on the mic and who just sold the hell out of Nakamura. It was almost like an audition for selling Nakamura on Miz TV this week, where he went off on him for about 2 minutes and put him over. And it was like, I was like, yeah, this is fantastic. This is great stuff. And then, of course, they murdered Miz, and that was the segment. I love this idea of like little yappy Sami Zayn and just kind of silent killer Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm in on this.
Oh, me too. I want to see what transpires. But here's the thing I wanted to talk about with this. This is the opportunity for Miz. We've been waiting for this for a long time. We've been waiting for Miz to get his Intercontinental title back for a long, long, long time. And I think this might be the moment. I think this might be the time where we're going to see Miz go on another string of Intercontinental title reigns to surpass that goal that he was so very close to before he flipped.
He needs one more reign to tie the all-time.
Yep.
He needs, I believe, 2 or 3 more months of a reign to pass the all-time all-time cumulative number of days holding the IC belt. He's very close to getting 2 absolutely enormous records with the Intercontinental belt. So if he picks it up and drops it and picks it up again, he'll have the new number 1 spot. This is a program. I don't know if we're going to get Miz Nakamura. After this, it's possible. It's certainly, if you think about it, it might. I'm trying to think when Maurice is due. I believe it's in 4 months or so.
Okay.
So it might time out that. I'm trying to do the math in my head of when he's got the new baby coming, how long he'd have to have the belt before he got the, try to align everything so we're all happy for Miz at the same time.
Right.
But that could be interesting. That is definitely an interesting speculation given the fact that he and the Intercontinental belt are so closely intertwined across his career.
Yep.
So
one
more thing on SmackDown. What's that?
I said I think it's time.
For it. Yeah. And Sammy and Nakamura, that's all good stuff.
Yep.
That being said, I think that's going to be divisive. The next thing, whether it's good or bad, a moment of bliss happened. Charlotte was on it. She talked smack about Bayley. That brought Bayley out. Bayley accepted the challenge from Charlotte for Clash of Champions for her title. Charlotte back in a title picture again, this time against Bayley. Does Bayley need to win this here? Or does Charlotte deserve her 10th reign right now? And if so, if Charlotte gets her reign, what the hell happens then to the SmackDown women's division?
God, it's a big meta question.
That's what we're here for.
Do I think Charlotte will win this now? Possibly. It's really 50-50. Bayley's not doing so hot. Bayley's not coming out like every week just super hot, in my opinion. She's not accepting all challengers and taking everybody. I don't feel like that she has that champion presence. No. That's what's missing. Charlotte does. And if
her physicality at the end of this segment, I'll just speak on that real quick, because at the end of it, she says, "Oh, by the way, Charlotte, I forgot to give you something," and pushes her off of her chair.
Loved that.
Really, because it felt like high school stuff to me.
I love that we finally got something like that out of Bayley. Like something. Like do something, right? At the end of the day.
Again, it was the presence. It was how she did it. It wasn't that she did it. It was how she did it. Made me just kind of go, That felt like a little girl pushing the older.
Little schoolgirl bully, pushy kind of stuff,
yeah.
Right? And that's kind of role reversal in a way. Like Charlotte should be doing that kind of stuff, if I'm being honest. But I think Charlotte's eventually going to get this back. I'd be impressed if I'd really like it if one person held onto the belt for a while. I'd really like it if Asuka got involved with this and we didn't have Charlotte again. I don't want to start that whole argument up again, but does Charlotte need another reign? No. Is she going to get it? Hell yes, she's going to get it. She's going to end up with more title reigns than her damn daddy. So it's
already well on her way.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But yeah, we will see. #MoWrestling.
Yep.
One thing's my way.
#justice for Asuka.
Yes, I know. But that being said, Charlotte does deserve to be in the title picture because she's freaking Charlotte, and she is one, like you said, she's got the presence.
Of course.
She has that presence that almost none of the other women have. And until they have someone else who comes along who gets to that level, who feels at that level, going to keep having those title shots. Just going to keep holding titles. That's just how it works.
Tune in next week when we put Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans in a tag team for the Raw Women's Tag Championships.
I mean, they've already been in a tag team, and I thought they looked and
didn't
worked
do
pretty
bad.
well together.
It looked pretty good, actually.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That being said, Nick, that is it for the major WWE programming, but there's plenty more wrestling to talk about on today's show. But to do that, we have to head over and talk about the wide world of wrestling.
Woo! NXT was good this week. I really liked it.
It was all the things we didn't get last week. Last week was all recaps. This week was all action. A lot of matches, a lot of things happening.
Lots of matches got booked for we know what's coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, there was a lot that was set up. It was a very packed episode. We're going to have to try to run through it here. We have a lot of show left to go to. Undisputed Era came out. Of course, they gloated about the fact that Adam Cole is now on the top of the mountain. He still has his title. But before they got out of there, they established that that Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly were screwed out of their tag belts because there was a missed tag, and that Roderick Strong wasn't pinned in the North American Championship match, so he wants another shot at Velveteen Dream. Okay, They start to leave. Before they get out of there, out comes Jordan Miles, who just won the breakout tournament, and he came out completely stone cold faced, dressed like he just got out of work at the office, and presented that old contract he's got to take a shot at anyone's title. Presented it to Adam Cole, who said, "Just go after anybody else, man. What are you doing? I'll ruin your career."
How money is Adam Cole on the mic, by the way? If we haven't established that yet, good Lord.
Oh yeah, we say all the time. We say it all the time. Adam Cole is lights out, and there's really no one in the Undisputed Era who, I mean, maybe Strong is a step or two behind everybody else, but even he's not bad. You know, especially as a heel. I see you making that face. I know you're not a big fan of Roderick Strong's mic skills. I think he does just fine.
Roderick Strong, I'm here to cut a promo for you.
He's better as a heel than a face. I'll give you that. Oh,
I'll get you Velveteen Dream.
Oh my God.
I'm glad we're live now, so I can actually do that on video because I used to do the robot hands.
And I'd be the only one seeing it and shaking my head. That being said, okay, but being the worst member of the Undisputed Era on the mic, it still means you're pretty damn good, is all I'm going to say. That being said, Miles very silently dropped the contract in front of them and walked away. So it looks like we're going to get Jordan Miles versus Adam Cole. Looking forward to that. And it looks like we're also going to get Velveteen Dream versus Roderick Strong. Dream came out later on his couch and accepted Strong's challenge. Said, fine, let's do this. You want another shot?
I love this so much. This is my favorite Velveteen Dream thing that Velveteen Dream does. Is get pushed out on the couch. Oh man,
with a couple of perspective.
No, that's fine. That's besides the point. But just the fact that he has like sort of servants wheeling him out onto his plush velvet couch is just fantastic. Just do this more often. The first time he did that, I nearly lost my shit. I thought it was one of the best things I've ever seen.
We were laughing our heads off when he did it.
Yep.
It keeps getting better and better, and I love the fact that Dream is turning also some of his promos a little bit more into that gold dust androgyny, tweaking a little bit. He's like, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's in the ring or backstage with all the boys in the locker room, Dream always likes to be on top. Because that's where the spotlight is. It's just that little tweak, Love it. But he's coming out, being let out on his couch by a couple of beautiful women. It's old school gold dust stuff, just not quite as perhaps tone deaf in the modern era.
Right.
But it's good stuff. Looking forward to Dream versus Strong whenever they get that. Who knows what it means for Pete Dunne. But I would love to see Dunne going for Cole. That would be a nice next step. We also had a match, Mansoor, Saudi Arabian prospect Mansoor versus Damian Priest.
Yes.
Yes, Damian Priest. Who, I like that Mansoor is just full-on babyface.
Hang on, I actually have a new toy that I can play with. Watch this.
Oh no.
I'm Damian Priest. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll leave that alone. Never mind. We'll play with the voice modulators again sometime.
What even? Okay, I have no idea what just happened. Damian Priest has a kind of flashy entrance. He's got a big, long, drawn-out. Kind of reminds me of early Baron Corbin entrance a little bit in some ways. What do you think about his entrance presentation? I'm not 100%
It's okay. I mean, the shooting the arrow to the flaming name is it's cheesy, but I'm not mad at it. I want him to be almost, Gangrel-esque. If you come out with the shades on and in a black leather trench coat, opened up with no shirt on, just if you're gonna be that role, I mean, just dive in head first because you're kind of half-assing it right now.
Trivia. The Brood entrance, my favorite entrance of all time, including the music, by the way.
Wow.
That is the greatest entrance in professional wrestling history, in my opinion. There have been some
Even
recently
Overtaker?
that might in time become better. But that is still the greatest entrance. They pulled off every week. They pulled it off every week, and it was that good. Not like once Finn Balor's Demon entrance was really good. I'm talking about every week the Brood entrance was sick.
Yes.
Sick. That being said, I think it's still a bit messy, Priest's entrance. It's just kind of a lot of parts, and he's
finding his way through it. You know, I don't fault him too much. This is they've completely repackaged him from Punishment Martinez. They're going to figure it out. They're going to get it right. It's going to be fantastic.
In its current form, it's feeling a little bit, it's a little infantile still. It's still getting there. It needs to grow. Yeah. They found lots of new things to do, like even when, there was a couple of people whose entrances evolved over time. Sanity's entrance evolved over time. It wasn't always the same thing. So they've got ways to grow with it. But at the same time, I like his presentation. I'm glad that they hired Hijo de Fantasma to the Performance Center, because he can actually show Damian Priest how to draw back a bowstring, for crying out loud. Actually make that look good. Do you feel like, so we were talking earlier about NXT setting up for being 2 hours on TV. Are these two guys who you feel that there's a few of these matches where I feel like they're setting up a lot of people and getting them back in our consciousness for that TV? Are these two guys you think are going to have a bigger presence once they go to 2 hours?
Mansoor and Damian Priest?
Yes.
Priest, yes. Mansoor, maybe.
Okay.
I think there's so much talent at the top right now circling the championships between the tags, the North American, and the NXT championship. And then you throw in the side shows that we have going on with Matt Riddle and Killian Dane. They're all top card stuff. I don't know if Mansoor and Damian Priest are at that level yet. So, yeah, my hope is that more guys get more time than just the top of the card or circling the championships when we go to a 2-hour show. I guess it depends on, my speculation is they're going to absorb 205 Live. If that happens, not so much. If not, and they've got 2 hours of actual live programming to put on, I think you're going to see a lot more, maybe the introduction of an additional title in addition to the North American Championship. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm all in on this. I'm going along for the ride. I can't wait for it. So
I think they've got to utilize Priest while they can. He's not a spring chicken, and Lord knows he has enough experience. Like, you could make him a big deal in NXT very quickly, and I think they should, before they waste a potential opportunity with him. Mia Yim had a match against Vanessa Bourne, which she won fairly handily. Props to Vanessa Bourne for improving a lot since we first saw her. She even did what is it, Soul Food? Is that what Mia Yim's finisher is called?
Yeah.
Mia Yim's,
no, they changed it. Isn't it Code Blue or something like that?
No, it's it's like a code breaker, but I think it's supposed to be. It used to be Eat Defeat, where she would drop them onto the sole of her shoe, but now it's like a sideways.
Yeah, it's a
code
modified
breaker.
Go to Sleep, where she falls on her back, like a cross between a code breaker and a Go to Sleep.
But whatever it is, Vanessa Bourne sold it like death. She sold it like Scott Hall eating a stunner from Stone Cold. It was really well done. But then here's the interesting twist: the 4 Horsewomen came out. Shayna Baszler and her goons came out to tell Mia Yim, "Hey, you know what? You're a badass. You took me further than anybody else has ever taken me. Join us." As
I should have seen the look on my face when Mara referred to them as the Horsewomen.
The Horsewomen, yeah. Join us.
Yet another one of those moments where there's a mole. I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you.
So what did you think about Mia Yim? Obviously rejected their advances. Are we going to get more Mia Yim and Shayna Baszler? And if so, are they building for Mia Yim to take the belt here?
When this match started and Vanessa Bourne and who I affectionately refer to as Armenian Carmella came out to the ring, I was like, I liked this because Mia Yim previously had fought Shayna Baszler and lost. And in a way, as shitty as it is to say about Vanessa Bourne and
Aaliyah,
Armenian Carmella, Aaliyah. As shitty it is to say about them, it feels like Mia was like, okay, reset her position. She's got to go back down to the mid-card and work her way back up. And I was like, oh, wow, I like this. Make Mia Yim prove herself again to get back into contention for the Women's Championship. And then Shayna came out, and I was just like, oh, God, okay. I didn't mind this so much. I just wish they would have left it alone. We didn't need to see this. Like, what did it accomplish? We could have just had Mia Yim
like
work her way back up through the
TV
card and get back to Shayna organically. So I don't know. I'm torn.
Again, I think it might just be a holding pattern until we get to TV. By the way, Will James in the chat here. Thank you. Protect your neck. They keep renaming the damn thing. She's had like 3 or 4 different finishers. But thank you, Will James. We also had a long video promo for Dijakovic and Keith Lee, who look like their feud's back on now that Dijak is healthy and Lee is healthy, and looks like we're going to get a nice Dijak Lee feud. They did they ran down their history both in and out of the company. I'm about time. We've been wanting this since they got there.
Yep. It's a shame that they both kind of got injured one after the other or around the same time. And, I love that it almost by accident ended on a double count out to leave the cliffhanger there. And then we got reports that they were injured. So now we're coming back to it after months.
Right where we left off.
3 or 4 months at least, right where we left off, picking right back up and going, both of them going, I wasn't done with you. And just, yes, give me this all day. This is all we ever wanted. Yep. Keith Lee and Dijak again. Oh, yes.
And I hope that before I felt like they were going to build it slowly and slowly reveal what they could do. Now they're openly saying, hey, we are big boys that do small boy things.
Right.
They're coming at it with that. I hope they come out of the gate hot now instead of trying to slowly let us in on the knowledge that they can do these things. They're just going to come out and blow doors because they don't have time to waste anymore. They got to get this going. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully this is one of those ones that people get really surprised by, because I think a lot of people are not ready for what this is going to be. We also had another match between two people who could be kind of, not all about big deals, but definitely fill out a 2-hour show. Bronson Reed from the Breakout Tournament and Shane Thorne, formerly of TM61. They had a match, a couple of Aussies. I'm not even going to try my Australian accent. It's basically Paul Hogan on a bender. I'm not even going to try to do it. They had an Aussie versus Aussie match, which was, I thought, nice and entertaining. I've been a little bit down on Shane Thorne in the past, but this was a very entertaining match. Went longer than I thought it would, too.
It was fine. I don't know that we'll get any more out of this. There wasn't much there, but yeah, it was fine for an exhibition.
It seems to be
Shane Thorne's just been walking around the back looking for somebody to fight for about like 3 months now. So now that his partner left him and he's on his own, he needs somebody to fight. It's almost like Aleister Black sitting in a room waiting for somebody to come find him to fight. That's what I feel like Shane Thorne just been wandering around the Performance Center looking for somebody to have a fight with him.
Yeah, I feel like he's missing a piece, though, still. I feel like there's just he's got to turn some knob up to 11 that's just not there. And I don't know what it is. And Bronson Reed, too, where he's got a lot of potential and a lot of ability, and he's got to find that little something that makes him click to the next level. Whereas right now he's just he's a guy who can do some incredible stuff. He's got a cool look. He's just got to find that little thing that makes him a little bit more special than what he is right now.
True.
And finally this week on NXT, Killian Dane versus Matt Riddle in what I can only describe, Nick, as a freaking war.
If you guys have not seen NXT this week yet, I understand it's Thursday. It was just on last night. If you have not seen NXT yet, that is the thing to go watch. In fact, this entire episode of NXT was one of the better ones I've seen in some time. It was fantastic. We had a couple of pretty awesome matches. It's a lot of good video packages, and it set up basically the future between now and probably the next takeover of what we're going to be working on. So,
speaking of takeovers, what was your takeaway on Dane beating Matt Riddle clean after, he basically face planted him into the steps, and then he Vader bombed him 3 times in a row?
Well, that face plant was a botch. It was supposed to be a back body drop down onto the steps, and Dane just didn't get the rotation on him, or somebody didn't tuck, and he came down on his face and busted his lip, and which worked in the scheme of things. Yeah,
it worked.
And Morrow was quick to go, oh, God, he dropped him right on his face. Face first worked. Into the steel. Yeah, they made it work. So
I mean, the booking was still Matt Riddle was supposed to lose. What do you make of that? Because Matt Riddle went on a long time looking really dominant on everybody.
Yeah. Has he lost yet?
Yeah,
has
he
been
lost.
pinned
He lost
yet?
a dream, and remember, did a couple losses.
Okay, I thought he was on this streak where he hadn't lost yet. All right, So I think this is fine. I love these two guys working together. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And can we just say, I will say this. In the pound-for-pound strongest category we normally refer to Cesaro in, I want to start throwing Matt Riddle in there because he gut-wrenched suplexed into a bridge Killian Dane, who's a 300-pounder.
Yeah. There's no joke.
He's not messing around. So Matt Riddle's nuts.
Even though Matt Riddle would probably absolutely murder Killian Dane in real life, I still believed in this match just because Dane was so much on the offense and he was so brutal. And I like the fact that this went to, Matt Riddle ate the pin and then ran after Dane to close the show, and they battled into the back. And if you've watched YouTube, they just kept fighting all through they may still be fighting today for all we know. Awesome. Great. I love this feud. I love the fact that this is making Matt Riddle look. He came into the ring and attacked Dane from behind before the bell even rang. It's making him look serious. People, anyone who's worried about the whole bro thing, you can look at this and go, okay, never mind. No, Matt Riddle, he's a scary dude as well.
Yep. Ambushed him from behind in his slides. Hadn't even kicked him off yet and just started whipping his ass. No, these guys are going to have a great feud. Shout out to Killian Dane's new Tron and music and package as well. Fantastic. Yep. The whole Beast of Belfast thing, showing all like war-torn Northern Ireland and all that stuff. So, I love everything that they're doing with these two guys right now. Please keep it up.
He reminds me a lot of a bouncer I used to have. And I wouldn't want to mess with him either. So, good stuff on NXT this week. Very nice show. Also, 205 Live with a great show this week. A very unique show this week, actually. It was basically just one long match. It was Team Gulak versus Team Lorcan. They both picked 5 guys to face each other in an elimination match. I can really quickly run down who beat who, but Team Gulak was Tony Nese, Mike Kanellis, Drew Gulak himself, Arya Daivari, and Angel Garza, who had come. He came to 205 Live to sleep with your wife and your daughter.
He has come up to the main roster.
Yes, he's come to stare salaciously at you from inside the ring and then rip off his pants and expose his Garzadong. Yes. Versus Team Lorcan, which was Akira Tozawa, Humberto Carrillo, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Jack Gallagher, and Oni Lorcan himself. Which is great because you've got a couple of new guys. You've got some new blood in there with Angel Garza and Swerve Scott. You've got some guys who needed some love, like Humberto Carrillo and Tony Nese and Mike Kanellis, who were starting to look irrelevant. Jack Gallagher, and he has some stalwarts like Jack Gallagher. So it was a great way to really kind of introduce people who are just watching to a lot of the roster and have some really good matches going on as well. This went down. Mike Kanellis eliminated Akira Tozawa. Gallagher eliminated Kanellis. Nese eliminated Gallagher. And then Lorcan eliminated Nese. And then Gulak eliminated Isaiah Scott. And then he got DQ'd. Gulak got DQ'd because he brought a chair into the whole thing. Lorcan eliminated Daivari. And Humberto Carrillo eliminated Angel Garza. And so Team Lorcan does pick up the win over Team Gulak at the end of the show. Not surprising, but I like the idea that Lorcan and Gulak are kind of come to blows again. I hope they're given more time, and I hope we have an even more brutal match next time. And everyone in this, I thought, came out looking pretty good.
Yeah. No, this whole big exhibition was fantastic. I loved every minute of this.
Agreed. Speaking of exhibitions and tournaments, New Japan Super J Cup is kicking off this week. In fact, I believe it's kicking off tonight in Seattle. With tonight we're getting Will Ospreay versus Amazing Red. Yes. Sho versus Taiji Ishimori. Clark Connors versus TJP. Robbie Eagles versus El Fantasmo. Taguchi versus Jonathan Gresham. Yo versus Dragon Lee. Caristico versus Bushi. And Rocky Romero versus Soberano Jr. That's all happening tonight in Seattle.
Jesus Christ.
This is going to, let's see, we got the 24th, it'll be in San Francisco. And the 25th, it's coming right here to Los Angeles, down in Long Beach.
It says Los Angeles on the screenshot. Did they mess up there?
Of course they did.
In the semifinals, it says Los Angeles on the bracket.
Let it go. Let it go. Yeah, it's what it is. It's Los Angeles. But I will be there this Sunday checking out the Super J Cup, and I will report back. Should be a good time.
Fantastic. Well, guys, that's it's time for us to now head over and talk about, or answer your listener questions. If you guys would like to get in on some listener questions, all you have to do is sign up for that $5 tier, $5 once per month, buying me and Ian a beer once a month, if even that, to be able to
My
answer,
beers for
get your
$12
questions
a bottle.
right here on the. I drink Miller Lite. Yeah, you could buy me 4 of them for $5. If you want to get in on some of this, patreon.com/BWO, sign up for that $5 tier. For the $10 tier, you get bonus episodes in addition to all of that stuff. So, yes, head over there. First up this week, we've got Josh. His question, I'm going to cheat this week and ask 2 quick ones. Naughty, naughty. You guys obviously have the best podcast around, obviously, but I've listened to every episode you have. Are there any other ones you guys would recommend? Yes. Also, what is the name of Ian's band and where can we find the music? I'd like to support outside of the podcast as well. First of all, Josh, thank you very much. Thank you for being a patron. Thank you for the kind words and being invested.
That's a cheat I'll accept. I'll accept that cheat. It allows me to have some self-promotion.
Yeah, so, obviously Ian is personal friends with the guys over at Going in Raw. We love supporting Steven Larson. They're fantastic guys. They put on a great show. They do a lot on Twitch. They've inspired me personally to do some of the things on BWO that I've seen them do over the years. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend the Going in Raw. I used to be really big into the What Culture stuff, all of their channels, and really now I just watch Simon. That's
Dude,
it, really.
He's the only entertaining person left, I kind of feel. Ugh.
I'll throw Wade Keller in there if you can get past all the commercials. Jericho when he has the interesting interview every now and then. Same with Steve Austin. But that's kind of my regiment of podcasts that I listen to.
WrestleSplania, Lapsed Fan is a really good one.
Ooh.
Trying to off the top of my head, trying to recall some other ones that I check out. I'll put a couple of them up in the Facebook discussion group. But that's a good. I mean, that right there, Jesus, Going in Raw, bless their hearts. All they do is their show.
Yeah.
I used to be roommates with Ann Larson. I used to get my ass kicked at basketball by Steve. So I've known those guys for years and years and years, and they have been doing something like this as a career for a long time, and they just pivoted
I think it's 5+ years at this point.
Pivoted that career into just doing their show. So they put out tons and tons of content.
Yeah.
I'm actually, if there's anything I'm jealous of, it's their ability to spend all their time doing it because I've got to, I have to pay rent.
Right.
And I actually have to work. And as you mentioned, Josh, I do also have a band. I actually technically have 2. One is on hiatus right now because our singer's having a baby. But the one that I'm currently working on a lot, we're coming out with an album this fall, is called House of Rabbits. And we actually have a YouTube channel that we just released a new music video on. We've actually got 2 YouTube channels. We're trying to transition from our old one to our new one. We just put out a music video that I directed. And I will warn anybody who goes to listen to my band. It is not for everyone. It's some fairly odd stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of this, I don't know, theatrical hard rock.
No, you have to go find the text that I sent you when I first saw the first cut of the video that you sent over to me. We have to post that for people. I don't mind, let's absolutely shill everything we can. So, post a copy of the video in the Facebook group, and I'll go find that comment that I sent you and post it in the comments underneath it. But very proud of you, man, on the launch of the new album and the new single there. Good stuff. It looks fantastic. As weird as
we're working on
it.
We do have our stuff is up on Spotify. You can find us over there as well. And check us out. We have one album out, one album on the way. The album that's out, we actually turned into a theater show, a stage show at one point, including aerial dancers and masks and a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So it's a lot of fun. And while
you guys participate in the Tiny Desk competition that NPR does every year as well. I think that's some of your more fun stuff.
We have fun with that every year, where we just basically you make a live video as long as there's a desk in it. And so we did that a couple times in a row. It's been fun. All of that's up on YouTube. Yeah. But as long as we're shilling, I might as well shill the upcoming Horror Palooza, the return of Horror Palooza, which I do every October because I don't watch enough stuff as it is, including everything else. I also watch 31 horror movies for the 31 days of October. I did it last year. That's still up on iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere else, everywhere that this show's on, because it's also on Orbital Jigsaw. But Horrorpalooza from last year is still up. Going to be coming back this year. Hopefully, I'll make it even more exciting and more fun this year. 31 more movies starting the beginning of October. So
yeah, you're going to run out of movies at some point, aren't you?
I'm going to have to what? Sleep?
You're going to run out of movies at some point.
Oh, no.
No?
Oh, never.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No. I always have ones left over that I have to watch next year.
In case you didn't know, listeners, Sir Ian Dangerous is a horror movie savant. And
fanatic.
Yeah, just absolute fanatic. If you are into horror movies, go check out Horrorpalooza on the same network that this show is on, orbitaljigsaw.com, and you can find he's got a whole series there from last year that we'll be doing again this year. So definitely check that out.
All right.
Thank you so much, Josh, for the questions and for giving us a chance to self-shill promote some other projects there.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. And shill our buddies over at Going and Raw.
Yeah. Shout out to Stephen Larson.
Back to the
Love
wrestling.
those guys.
Back to the wrestling.
And Hilton.
I'm actually going to be doing this show live from Hilton's house, from the Going and Raw. One of the guys on the Going and Raw cast. I'll be at his house doing the show in, I think, 2 weeks.
Yep.
So go figure.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Next up, Eric. If you could rebook any major storyline from any time period and promotion, what would it be?
Ooh.
I'm going to need a minute on this one. In fact, I think this is one of those we need to write down as a potential bonus episode.
Oh, no, I got this. I actually got this right now.
Oh, okay.
You need to think about this?
Yeah, you do yours. I'm going to think about it for a second.
Invasion.
Oh,
there's
God
just really
almighty.
no. I don't think there's ever been a storyline that should have been so money that was so bungled as that one. I mean, you can call out the nexus with John Cena. I think that the Stone Cold heel turn, I would have rebooked. Like, there's a lot that was, I think, kind of part of the invasion angle as well. There really isn't one, I think, that was. There's a lot of smaller ones that I was kind of annoyed by, but that killed the mainstream appeal of wrestling. There has never been such a loss of viewership as that. Like, that killed a lot of people between the Stone Cold heel turn and the invasion, back to back, one on top of the other. That killed the 9-point ratings that WWE was getting. Killed them. If there was one, and it should have been a home run. How can that not be a home run? Like, that's, I think what everyone was excited about it when it was happening was it was kind of an obvious gimme. You've got all of these guys who are so over in both companies, but because WWE is so petty that they couldn't allow the WCW guys to get over in any way and make and seem like a threat, they completely botched the entire storyline. So that's the one, just easy. That's the one I would fix, because that changed the landscape of wrestling. If we want to look at the history of wrestling, that's the one that really kind of murdered the mainstream appeal in a lot of ways.
You know, it hurts me to say, because I'm a sucker for the cheesy type of storylines. And I think one of the bigger, I'll agree that it was drawn out way too long, was the whole Test and Stephanie McMahon marriage angle with Triple H stealing her and running off to Vegas and talking like, yes, I love this man of mine. You know, yeah.
Triple H roofing Stephanie and getting married to her in Vegas.
Yes. So as much as I love that, it was an absolute waste of time, and we never really saw any wrestling out of it. But it was, you have to admit, it's a lot of fun. I don't know how exactly I would rebook it, and how a mere few years later we ended up with them as a full-time couple. But, I don't know. That's the only one I could come up with. Was that more of a waste of time,
or was the higher power more of a waste of time?
Oh, higher powers. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's kind of more of a waste of time.
Yeah.
It was me all along, Austin. That's what I worry is going to happen with this Daniel Bryan Rowan thing. Like, oh, it was me all along, Roman. And we're all like, well, duh.
Mimsy. Thank you, Eric. I'm going to keep that one in the
Meddling Murphys.
Yeah. I'm going to keep that one in the pocket in case we need to come back to it at some point. That's a good one. Next up, Jacob. What are your thoughts on gimmick match pay-per-views like TLC Extreme Rules and Hell in a Cell? I feel like they took the special feeling the matches once had. Yeah. You know, the problem with these pay-per-views for me is that there's not enough of the matches, or the stipulations aren't as visceral as they used to be. The stakes aren't as high as they used to be. I love TLC. It's one of my favorites. I used to like Extreme Rules when they actually booked, I don't know, Extreme Rules stipulations. I liked Hell in a Cell when, it wasn't just a gimmick to get on top of the cell. That there were, actual damage was done and you were locked in there and you beat the hell out of the person to keep them down until you could go open the door and get out yourself. They just don't do enough of these things anymore. And it's hashtag PG era kind of stuff. And that's, because of reasons. But I get it. I understand. But I miss them too. I pine for the days of yore where we used to get color. Remember that?
That's actually kind of where I wanted to come in on this, was that all of these gimmick matches used to be special because a lot of them we'd never seen before. And the more you see them, the more it's exposed, the less special it feels. And there's nothing that exposes it more than having a whole special be built around a particular match, which not only, if you use this match as a promotional tool, it becomes less about the reasons for the match. And this is the theme this week. The match itself becomes a prop. When a feud escalates to the point that it has to go to Hell in a Cell, it makes it feel less special when we know there's a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up, and the ends doesn't justify the means. From a storytelling standpoint, we know they're going to end up in Hell in a Cell because they have a pay-per-view. They've got to have some sort of Hell in a Cell to call it Hell in a Cell. So from that standpoint, I think that it's going to mess with people's minds and how they perceive the matches. But as far as you're saying, Nick, with stuff like how the matches themselves are actually conducted, specifically with Hell in a Cell, I'm of the mind you shouldn't have a Hell in a Cell match if you're not willing to have some color. Because the very nature of that match should be the most brutal, extreme match you could possibly have in WWE. And of all the ones that they've had that have not had color, I think they've had one, maybe two, that were actually decent matches.
Yeah.
So I agree in that sense. That being said, you get to a match which is also, a gimmick show, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series. That's fun. TLC, I think it's still fun because now they've established that every match is going to have an implement of some sort, and you have a tables match, you have a ladders match. That's fun. I don't mind that so much, but I agree with you, Nick, in the sense of when it is Extreme Rules, for example, I think has just become a kind of a useless one, as you said, because the rules just can't be extreme enough.
Well, we're doing 2 out of 3 falls matches now every other week, so
yeah, so
it's not extreme anymore.
But when it's a pay-per-view where the style of match itself is giving away storylines, where instead of having the storyline logically progress to that kind of match, where it's forcing the storyline to go to that kind of match in a sense, that's where I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, Gargano and Cole with the 2 out of 3 falls that ended in an asylum match. It's effectively a Hell in a Cell with weapons. Yeah.
War Games. We know that we're going to have a War Games match.
Oh, God, I was so happy when that came back. Yeah, completely agree with you, Jacob, here. It takes the special feeling away from the matches themselves when the entire pay-per-view is built around what was once the gimmick match. So, yeah, I see what you're saying there. Fantastic.
Oh, God,
question.
Jacob Uhas is trying to give me nightmares. I just looked down at the chat, and he reminded me of the John Cena Rusev flag match at Extreme Rules. I want to die now.
Oh, God.
Those are my least favorite matches.
Just forget about that. Remember the time that Rusev drove a tank to the ring at WrestleMania, and it'll all be fine. Let's move on.
Good time. Rusev's looking jacked on Instagram right now, or Twitter, whatever I saw it. Oh, he's some picture he posted. Jesus, he's terrifying. Great.
We have some news on him here in a bit. Next up, Esme Stand-In Bear. Hey, guys, would really appreciate if you pod fathers can help clear something up for me. Thank you. I always hear with a certain amount of contempt that matches can be, quote, spot fests. Are spot fests not considered great matches, and what's the difference between a spot fest and a great match, if so?
I'll handle that one. Spot fest is basically going to be two guys who get into a ring and do a bunch of stunts with no story. It's used as a pejorative when guys tend to do a lot of big moves or exciting moves without really selling them a whole lot and not really making it feel like it's an actual match. There's no real story to it. I know that if there's one particular instance of a match where this term was used as a pejorative, it was Ospreay versus Ricochet in the Best of Super Juniors a few years ago, where basically all they did was flips and these insane kicks, and there was just no lasting damage. They didn't sell throughout the match. You sold the fact you got hit, but then 30 seconds later you're doing a reverse Rana off the apron and you're just fine. There's a place for those, though. I mean, in a sense, it is kind of a Cirque du Soleil kind of match where
like Ospreay versus Ricochet.
Yeah, like that. When you do it like that was an awesome match to watch. And a couple of guys just doing flippy things for 10, 15 minutes can be awesome. But it's a very different style of match than two guys going in there and actually telling a story. You're going to get more emotionally invested in that, and ultimately it's going to leave a different impression. And it's one reason why a lot of people are really high on Ospreay right now, is he's gone from being what people perceived as a spot monkey, a guy who can do a bunch of these big spots, but then doesn't really have the storytelling or the selling in his matches. And Ricochet, to his credit as well, he's really changed his style up a lot to be a lot more of a storyteller. And they both put in these big moves when they're appropriate, as opposed to just ripping them out for no reason. It's one of the reasons why I was really down on the Adam Cole Gargano match, is at the end, it turned into a spot fest. It turned into, let's hit each other with everything but the kitchen sink and kick out of it, which kind of beggars belief in this kayfabe world where you say, well, how do you kick out of all of these things and then turn around and get pinned by a DDT the week before?
Yeah.
So that's really the I would say the easiest way to describe the two different styles is one has a story and one is just a bunch of big moves. And again, I tend to prefer matches that are hybrids of the two. I love seeing a lot of athletics and a lot of big spots. That's why I love lucha as much as I do. But I do prefer when there is a story, some sort of semblance of a story or a progression being told throughout the match.
Yeah.
And they're at least giving some nod towards it being the impression of a sporting event.
Okada Omega might be a really good example of that hybrid that you're referring to, because there was a huge story there, but all they did was try and hit big finishers on each other for 30 minutes or an hour.
That's kind of a New Japan thing, too, is at a certain point, it turns into, I've got to hit my finishing move to take this guy out.
27 times.
But that can be a storytelling element as well.
Sure.
Because
they can't quite get it all the way. They didn't land it all. They didn't get all of it.
Right.
Right. I get it. My big example here would be something like, I think of Spot Fest a little bit differently. I think of it like the halftime heat thing we had at the Super Bowl with NXT this year. You throw 10 guys in the ring and they all just do their crazy finisher and special moves over and over and over and over again. And while it's entertaining on the surface, there's absolutely no context or no story. It's just, you're there to, it's Cirque du Soleil, like you said. You're there to watch people do crazy stunts and, backflips and all kinds of crazy stuff. Ricochet doing a double backflip off the top of the cell in War Games.
But only that. But only that, as opposed to, War Games, which was, and I thought a nice war of attrition.
Sure. So, yeah, that's Spot Fest, are just people doing a bunch of moves with no real context or reason, just because they can. That's really what it boils down to. Thank you very much, Esme. Appreciate it. Next up, Billy. Okay, guys and gals, SummerSlam weekend was basically the end of summer and sets us on the road to Royal Rumble and the Tokyo Dome, among other things. Who will be the biggest star of this next season? Ospreay, Okada, Ibushi, The Fiend, Rollins, Dr. Wagner. Who?
Dr. Wagner's going to go on a retirement tour, so I think he definitely, kind of like Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yeah.
So I think that's possible.
Joey Ryan. No.
Well, I mean, Ospreay's not a bad call, but he's been kind of the star of the spring. I think that Jericho is going to be I think if Jericho beats Hangman Page at All Out with the AEW deal, Jericho will be a major force.
Yeah.
In all of this. I think there's going to be a lot more attempts at mainstream attention with all the wrestling that's going to be going on this fall.
Well, much like we say Reigns and potentially Charlotte are going to walk onto Fox as champions, I also think Jericho walking on to TNT as the first AEW champion would also be a big deal, much more so than Hangman Page.
Well, that's exactly. And that's why I think Jericho should be the first champ.
He should. Absolutely.
When you talk to people on the street who may not be wrestling fans, as far as people who are like the public perception of wrestling is still Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, maybe John Cena. That's about it, right? Beyond that, people actually might know Jericho. And I've actually found a lot of people who know next to nothing about wrestling since like, oh yeah, Stone Cold and The Rock and whatnot, stunners and beers. The other person they still kind of know is Jericho. They might not remember what he looks like, but they've heard the name. So I think in terms of the fact that we may be seeing more mainstream attention being given to wrestling, Jericho is going to be a name to look out for in the fall. I think he's one of those guys who could. That's one reason why AEW's had a coup with getting him, is I think he's a guy who can really bring a lot of mainstream attention to them, and as a result is going to be a major figure and possibly even in mainstream culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ospreay, let's see how he does tonight in the Super J Cup, because if he goes from Battle of Super Juniors to having a pretty damn decent G1 into the Super J Cup, going into, what do we got later this year? Wrestling Duntaku? I can't remember.
We got a bunch. We got Destruction Tour first.
Destruction Tour. That's the one I was trying to think of. Yeah, we got that
tour.
Are
you talking about in wrestling or just in general in terms of big stars?
He's naming, it looks like in wrestling. So Ospreay, Okada, Ibushi, The Fiend or Rollins.
The Fiend for sure.
Watch out for Braun Strowman. I would say that, but I'm serious. I do think that there could be something coming there for Braun Strowman. I hope. I thought it was coming last year, but I was wrong. We were so wrong. Thank you very much for the question, Billy. Next up, Patrick. If you had the opportunity to redo any main roster debut from NXT, who would it be, and how would you do it correctly? We're going to say
you
the
all
same
know my
thing
answer.
Here.
You know my answer to this. Aleister Black, absolutely. I could spend some time and really think about all of the NXT debuts, and there have been a bunch of botched ones, and I'm sure I could find another one that would really piss me off. But there is nothing right now in WWE that makes me hotter than what they've done to Aleister Black, just on a consistent basis. Like I get so pissed off about that, considering just how freaking cool he was in NXT and what a great gimmick and what a great presentation. And just how awful. And they're trying. That's the part that really pisses me off. It's one thing if someone just gets EC3'd and they disappear. It's another thing if they genuinely try and you're like, okay, you're trying to do something here and it's terrible. And you had Aleister go from being in a tag team for some freaking reason and never really get a debut. He showed up at the Rumble and then all of a sudden he's talking to himself in a room. Think about, Nick, all the ways that we had it booked for him to show up and have it just be absolutely mind-blowingly epic.
Yep.
And just what an absolute piece of crap his debut on the main roster.
It was actually about a year ago we were talking about this.
Yeah.
Before they got called up. We were I think we talked about them on one of our bonus episodes. Yeah, it was the who's going to make it and who's going to fail. And we remember with Ricochet and Aleister Black, they had to nail it. And I think they got it right with Ricochet, but they're floundering miserably with Aleister Black. I'll see your Aleister Black, and I'll raise you a War Machine.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
That's mine.
Yeah, okay, so Aleister Black was a long, drawn-out murder. War Machine was just, they put a bullet in their head from
They took
day
him out
one.
back behind the building and just shot him.
Oh.
Viking Experience.
So right.
I'm going to say that again for effect, so everybody hears it and remembers it. Viking Experience. From War Machine, the renowned Viking Marauders hailing from New Japan Pro Wrestling, coming into NXT and absolutely running roughshod.
Ivar and Eric, they changed their names too. Oh, God. It's almost, the Ascension getting beaten down by all the old tag teams was pretty rough, but at least they had a bit of a run. Yeah. War Machine
at least they did the Fashion Police thing there for a little bit. That was fun.
Oh, you're right. They just shot them in the kneecaps and just let them bleed out.
There's all kinds of stuff I would do to rebook them and bring them out as one of the strongest tag teams WWE has ever seen. And it's my sincere hope that that gets recognized at some point, that somebody goes back and watches old New Japan footage of those guys in tag team, the kind of things that Hansen can do as that big of a man is absurd.
Still try to show it off, but just, I mean, so right now they're saying in the chat, I'm seeing Sanity get brought up a lot, and that's very true. Like they absolutely bungled Sanity, but they did try with Sanity. They actually kept Sanity mostly the way they were doing at NXT. They just didn't know, they didn't get Sanity on the main roster.
No.
It wasn't that they didn't get Viking Raider War Machine experience. It was that they actively screwed them over. It would be like if Sanity became a bunch of like ravers from the mid 90s, right? Oh yeah, they kind of look like a bunch of soccer hooligans from England, so we'll just make them that.
Yeah, they're doing ecstasy and waving glow sticks around. You know, what?
At least they try with Sanity. They just couldn't pull it off.
Yeah.
And Sanity had a good run. They were beating New Day at a certain point. Anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, the mistake that they made, in my opinion, with Sanity is that they should have treated him like the Shield. They should have had him come in out of the crowd or out of nowhere and just sneaky attacks on everybody all the time. No, they came out and they had them come out to the top of the ramp, and it was all shaky cam, and we all got sick.
But they're not the future of the company. The Shield was considered the future of the company, and they were.
They have turned out to be, to an extent. Anyway, yeah. So, Aleister Black, War Machine. There you go, Billy. Thank you very much for the question. Next up. Oh, nope, that was Patrick. I'm sorry. Thank you, Patrick, for the question there. Lost my track. Ed. Next up is Ed. So, Braun and Nicholas. I mean, Seth Rollins are tag team champs. What?
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
The phenomenal ones should have kept them via shenaniganry.
No, Ed, no.
And had Braun turn on Seth Rollins. What say you?
Yes.
That's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking before, just without the whole tag team titles. Like, you could have just had a straight man-to-man, two badasses feud get started because Braun Strowman wants him some of that belt.
Yeah.
It's that effing simple. You don't have to overbook it like they're doing with this, with those two guys.
I agree with that. This is a little bit overbooked, and it's wasting. It's taking something that could be utilized elsewhere as an engaging storyline prospect, and they're wasting it on a prop. Yep.
Thank you very much, Ed, for the question there. That's an easy one. Last but certainly not least, Brad. Hey, guys, with the announcement that NXT is going to be moving to USA now on Wednesdays with a 2-hour show, I'm both excited and a little apprehensive. Excited as we will get an extra hour to showcase the great talent and matches there. Apprehensive because I think Vince will not want to keep his hands off of it since it will be on a major cable network, and he will want to make it Raw SmackDown 2.0. Obviously, I want Hunter to keep control of NXT on TV, but what do you guys think?
I think we touched on a lot of this in the big news segment. Basically, yup. I pretty much agree with this from top to bottom. Totally excited that we're getting 2 hours of NXT, that they're going to be getting the kind of attention from within the company that's going to allow them to compete with AEW. On the other hand, with that attention comes the possibility of interference from Vince Creativity McMahon. And that is very worrisome. I really do. I think Brad hit all the points here that are really the talking points about NXT going to USA.
Yep.
Is on one hand, it's great. On one hand, it's a little bit nerve-wracking and terrifying because of what might happen. But let's be clear. If Vince comes in there and starts messing up NXT, the people who are currently invested in it, right now, they did a poll of a few thousand people on Twitter of, okay, if it started tomorrow, which are you watching, AEW or NXT? And it was something like 28% were watching NXT and the rest were watching AEW, which is, that doesn't surprise me at all. I think a lot of people are used to catching NXT, later on in the week. They don't need to watch it live. They're going to have to do some work to make NXT, must-watch live TV. But that 28% is going to dwindle if they feel like Vince McMahon is messing with their product.
Completely agree with that. Yep.
They're going to have to be very careful with NXT, and I hope that Well, we'll see. I mean, it is a we will see prospect. Neither of us is Vince McMahon. We're not in his head. And really, he's the only person who can answer this right now is, hey, Vince, how much control are you going to have over NXT? How interested, how invested in you are, how invested are you in making NXT something competitive with AEW?
Right. Thank you very much for the question there, Brad. And guys, that's it for our listener questions this week. Thank you guys so much for getting those in. And if you want to get yours in next week, head over to patreon.com/BWO and sign up for that $5 tier or higher, and you can get yours in every single week. Current status, #current status, we are at 43. If we get to 50, we hit another fun milestone. So make that happen in addition to subscribing to the YouTube channel. But Ian, we're not done. We're almost out of here, but we got to finish up with our other news lightning round. Beep, 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 beep.
I got this. All right, starting off quickly, Ronda Rousey nearly lost her damn finger. If you have not seen her Instagram, go to her Instagram right now and steel yourself, because she has a picture of her finger hanging off of right around the second knuckle because she had a boat door slam on it while she was filming 911 for Fox. Apparently, she finished the scene. They have this all on film, and they're actually going to show it on the show, her getting her finger nearly ripped off and no-selling it. No-sold it until the shot was done, and then had to go to the hospital, and they had to reattach her entire finger with plates and screws and duct tape and chicken wire. But apparently she's already gotten a bunch of her movement back in her finger. She'll be fine. But good Lord.
I'm going to vomit.
You got to see this picture.
I'm gonna puke.
It is freaking like the fact that she just no-sold this, gnarly. Tony
Schiavone. Take that, Tom Cruise, and your broken ankle in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, well,
Jesus Christ.
or Leonardo DiCaprio stabbing himself in the hand on Django. Anyway, moving on. Lots of people want Tony Schiavone. He's still with MLW, but has been fielding offers from WWE and apparently AEW. So Tony Schiavone, he's out there still working it. Look at him pimping around.
I hear you, Tony.
Get some Tony on your show. It'll put some butts in the seats. Stephen Amell will star in Heels, which is a new show coming on Stars. They've ordered 8 hour-long episodes for the first season. It'll be about indie wrestlers in Georgia. Cody Rhodes has already said he'd love to come help Stephen out with that. So not surprising that Stephen Amell is going from Arrow to wrestling shows, because as we probably all know, Stephen Amell is actually a decent wrestler himself. He had a great match at All In. So
not to be confused with Ryan Nemeth's movie project Heel. Also
Heel, yes, which we should all go check out.
Yes,
he got his goal, didn't he?
He did hit his Indiegogo goal, or whatever crowdfunding goal that it was, whatever site it was, and they're in production right now. They're making it. So kudos. Shout out to Ryan. Hot Young Briley.
Already, we had an interview with him, and it was a great interview. Good guy. John Moxley has an elbow issue. We're not sure if it is an infection he picked up in Japan, or he said he was getting some sort of stinger. It's been he had compression on it. Last few matches, a compression sleeve. It's not known how bad it is or what even is going on. They're all staying pretty quiet about it. But he recently worked a show and was notably staying off of his elbow. So hopefully he can get good by the 31st, because he's got to work all out. He's got a big match there. Hopefully he's able to get through that okay. Speaking of AEW, their first show on TNT was overbought by the scalpers. The tickets are as low as $8 in the secondary market, which is brutal. But that being said, All Out is the hottest secondary market of all time in pro wrestling. The tickets average at $240 if you want to go to All Out. Brutal. By the way, F scalpers.
Yeah, no kidding. But we sold out in 4 minutes. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
No. The speculative market bought it for you.
Thank you, Jericho.
AEW, their tag team title tournament will be, their semifinals will be on week 4 of their TV. That was just announced this week as well. New Japan news, Shibata, as we know, just came back and threw some drop kicks and took a beat down on the last night of the G1, which was very emotional for yours truly, and for probably more so for a lot of fans who are long time viewers of New Japan. Apparently, Shibata is not cleared to wrestle. He was cleared for that, but nothing more, kind of like Edge was at SummerSlam. However, like Daniel Bryan, Shibata is actively trying to get cleared to come back. No surprise, because like Daniel Bryan, the dude just lives and breathes wrestling. So fingers crossed for him that he can get back in there. But given the absolutely horrific nature of the injury that made him retire, I'm way more nervous about him coming back than I ever was about Daniel Bryan.
Agreed. Please be careful,
we'll
dude.
See. And if he starts trying to headbutt people, just trank him and drag him out of the ring.
Yeah, please don't let that happen.
Because he doesn't care.
No.
This week's Impact show is being used as a pilot for a weekly studio TV show. So Impact making some moves. They're trying to get on TV as well.
Trying to get off of Twitch, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll see Impact making them moves. And they are getting all behind Tessa Blanchard. She is the highest paid person on their roster, which, by the way, smart move. She is your number one star, 100%.
In before Tessa Blanchard to AEW. Just saying.
I think she signed a longer-term contract with Impact. She'll be there for a while. But someone who's not with Impact is LAX. LAX finished up their time at Impact, and they are out. They're done. Nick, should we say it right now?
Sure.
LAX
to AEW. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Yeah, we don't know where they're going yet, but I'd say it's a pretty safe speculation. They're a fantastic tag team.
For sure.
And throw them in the tag division over there in AEW, and that would be baller. Speaking of baller, Miz and Maurice bought a $6.4 million house right here in sunny Southern California in Thousand Oaks, which is about 45 minutes northwest of me. It's a great area actually to buy a big house, 1.4 acres.
Yeah,
it's
about the only place you can find any kind of
there.
land is out in Ventura County to the west. So
yeah,
you're not going to find 1.4 acres inside of Los Angeles proper.
No. But it is, yeah. So it's a nice area. It's a 10,400 square foot home, 6 bedrooms, 9 baths. Yeah, it doesn't suck.
I don't think I can afford to furnish that place, much less buy it. Good God.
Jesus, I know, right? I mean, their previous house, they had a house in Texas that I guess they bought for $2.35 million, sold it for $2.64 million. So yeah, they still went in an investment with this sucker. So that being said, only in Thousand Oaks can you get that much house for that price. I've seen houses that are like 1-bedroom houses in Malibu on the beach for $5.5 million. So that's the housing market here in LA. It's absolutely insane.
Where I used to live in Sherman Oaks, not Thousand Oaks, Sherman Oaks, you could buy a 2-bedroom, 50-year-old house for a cool $2-3 million.
People wonder why I rent.
Right.
And
People
finally,
wonder why
this
I
week,
left
The
LA.
Rock. The Rock married longtime girlfriend Lauren Hashian in Hawaii. She is the baby mama of 2 of his daughters.
Attaboy, DJ!
Yep. So he is now hitched again. They've been together for a long time, so I guess it was just a matter of time. So
congratulations, you're never going to see him. He's the hardest working man in Hollywood, and, you know.
No kidding. What a stud. And that is the news, Nick.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sir Ian Dangerous. And guys, that's it for our show today. Thank you very much for Thank you very much for tuning in, especially you guys in chat that were here with us live throughout the entire thing. Thank you very much for keeping it lively in the chat. And we got a new subscriber, saw it come in. Tyler, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
All kinds of good stuff. Speaking of subscriptions, guys, we are driving towards 1,000 YouTube subscribers. We're currently sitting with Tyler's at 295. Got a long way to go, but I believe in you guys. Between now and October 4th, you got 42 days. We can make that happen, and we can make Sir Ian Dangerous get up on stage and sing Tai Chi's entrance music at karaoke for you to watch on YouTube and for you to point and laugh at for perpetuity. But to do that, you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel right here. When you do that, be sure and hit that notification bell because we put up good events for all of our future live streams, including pay-per-views and things like that we'll come on and do. You also want to be subscribed because we're switching to 2 shows here in about a little over a month per week. So we're going to have a Tuesday show and a Saturday show covering all things wrestling for your ear holes. So being subscribed to the YouTube channel is a big deal. actually following us everywhere, such as at BWO Podcast on YouTube and Instagram. And last but certainly not least, be in our Facebook discussion group. Just search for Busted Wide Open on Facebook. Send us that join request, and we'll get you right in. We do have the new Discord server. Lots of people are coming on, transitioning from the more commenty, threaded types of conversations on Facebook into Discord, which is like doing a live chat for every show, every week, and everything ever. It's a great little community tool that we're gonna continue to promote and somewhat transition operations, month to month over to that. But we'll keep both running. One of them's not going away. They're both going to be there for a long time. But if you follow all of those things, then you can head over to the Gleam.io giveaway, where we're doing our Busted Wide Open monthly merch giveaway. We're coming up at the end of the month. Got about a week left to get in for this month's $50 grab bag of merch. This month we're doing a couple of T-shirts, a little Chub Cup, some stickers, all kinds of good stuff in that little grab bag of merch here. We'll do some different stuff next month, shake it up a little bit, keep it interesting every single month. Just as we drive to build our following online, all you have to do is check the boxes because you're all already following us everywhere, right? Right?
Right.
So it's really easy for you. So all you have to do is check the boxes and you get free stuff. Congratulations. Yay, you win. Anyway, we'll be doing that drawing on September 1st to see who is the winner for the month of August, and they will be notified.
Yes.
Last but certainly not least, Patreon. Thank you very much to all of our patrons for all of your contributions every single month. You really do drive things forward for us. You have helped me build this wonderful live streaming setup that has, this is the stream rig. Everything kind of went well. Knock on desk today. Everything so far seems to be working really well. We got rid of all of the lag and all of the latency and the weird audio gremlins and things like that. So, oh God, fingers crossed. We're going up from here. So lots of new stuff coming, guys. There's a lot of activity. Ian and I have said multiple times we feel like we're just getting started. And those of you that have been along with us for the last 2 years as we really get this ship rolling, thank you very much. Just for me to all of you, and I'll speak for Sir Ian Dangerous, thank you very much for all of your support as we've grown over these last couple of years. But I'm Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at Data Center Dude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God!
Somebody stop the damn match!
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.